Okay,
Hello?
can you hear us now? Somebody give us a thumbs up.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so we'll start over. Calling to order the meeting of the Butler Community College Board of Trustees, regular board meeting here in the Dankert Boardroom, February 9th, 2021 at 4:30. Reminder that you can watch the meeting live. Again, reminding that we are live streaming and recording, and make sure that you've got your microphones on, trustees, so anybody watching can hear the conversation. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Do you want to move up?
Second.
One thing that we did need to do, sorry about that,
That's right.
is due to some time constraints, we want to bump up the culinary conversation to just before the standing reports after the public comment. So I would ask that we amend the agenda to be able to do that, so they can, speakers that can.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? And we'll do a roll call.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Howell, Trustee Smith,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. And recognitions.
Yeah, let me do a couple of recognitions here. Terry Sater's going to do a recognition when he does his standing report, so we'll have one at that point in time too. I want to recognize tonight our Teaching Excellence Award winners. NISOD every year awards allows institutions to choose faculty to be recognized for teaching excellence. It's called the John and Suanne Rouge Excellence Award. And so we have Amanda Hadley with us here tonight. So Amanda is she's in her first semester her first semester was in 2019 in January. So this is her fourth semester teaching Spanish for Humanities and Social and Behavioral Sciences Division. In the letters nominating Amanda, there were many wonderful things said, including Amanda's positive can-do attitude and practical problem solving make her an asset to Butler. The past few semesters have been a real trial for everyone, but she deserves recognition for her work, her helpfulness, and her positivity through tough times. Kelsey Harper is Amanda's lead instructor, and she also had a lot of great things to say about Amanda, including that she's a dynamic instructor, whether face-to-face or online. As the department was trying to develop their online offerings, Amanda was a pro at recognizing areas for improvement and delivering thoughtful and constructive feedback to strengthen the different areas. And so Amanda, congratulations. This is a wonderful award, national award, really. It's national recognition from NISOD. And thanks for your dedication to students and your commitment to all you do inside the classroom and outside. So thank you. Thanks for being here too. Appreciate that. I also want to recognize, so we chose, each year we choose a full-time faculty member and an adjunct faculty member. And so Amanda's our adjunct this year. Our full-time faculty member, that's our award winner this year for John and Suanne Rouge, is Larry Friesen. Larry's first semester at Butler was in the fall of 1981. So he's finishing his 40th, or he's in his 40th year of teaching at Butler. He teaches math in the STEM division. And in the letters that nominated Larry, again, there were lots of comments ranging from his use of real-world examples to the ability to teach to different learning styles. One example of his letters included, Larry is good at talking to students informally and asking them about their outside interests and their goals, career goals. This makes a big difference to students when they are deciding whether or not to stay in college or to stay at Butler. Lori Winningham obviously has worked with Larry for a number of years and said that Larry is a very humble man, is dedicated to Butler and focused on his students. He's willing to teach at all of our sites to better understand the needs of those sites, which is a great attribute of a lead instructor. So Larry Friesen, I don't know if you're zooming in, but congratulations. We appreciate your long-time commitment and your dedication to students as well. So congratulations. And then I have another recognition, and this is for Teresa Eastman. Teresa is our Director of Disability Services. And she this year is the co-chair of the Community College Knowledge and Practice Group with AHEAD. And AHEAD is the Association of Higher Education and Disability. Teresa and her colleague from Lehigh Carbon Community College in Pennsylvania host a bi-monthly Zoom meeting with community college partners across the nation. She's also been selected to review proposals for the summer conference that's scheduled in July. This is the third year that she has been requested to review the proposals. Teresa's been here a number of years at Butler, true asset to our students. She and her team do great work for our students. And she and Shelley Stoltz have been really key people as we've worked through the COVID in creating accommodations for faculty and staff if they've needed to work remotely. So Teresa, congratulations, great job. Appreciate all of your commitment to the college and again, the students and your colleagues. So good job.
Anybody in public comment? Seeing no public comment, Kim, if you want to go ahead and
Sure.
introduce the culinary arts.
Okay.
Association.
Do we have Scott and Les on yet? No? Okay, well, let's go ahead and start standing reports, shall we? And we'll connect with them. I told them somewhere between 4:40 and 4:45 probably we'd start. So if you watch for them, Laura, and then we'll connect them.
Okay. So we'll move on to the standing reports. Is Kirsten
Thanks, man.
available? Kirsten, are you there? Kirsten, are you able to hear me okay? There you are.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. My camera is not working, so I apologize. But I also have our secretary, Chloe, here, and she's going to help me read off some things. So just to start off, spring semester, we gained 2 new members, Naomi Galindo, she's a sophomore, and Lupe Ariola, she is a freshman. So we're excited to finally have a full team again. And to start off the semester, we started by having a welcome table in the 1500 building the first week of school, where we handed out snacks and school supplies for new and returning students. And then starting the first week of February, we began our remembrance of a different African American each week that made an impact on American history for Black History Month. So last week was Martin Luther King Jr., this week is Rosa Parks, next week is Malcolm X, and the last week will be Aretha Franklin. And we also plan to add Valentine's Day treats to this week as well. And last week we also had our first giveaway for the semester, which includes various Butler gear, a gift card, and an Amazon Echo.
For upcoming events, SGA, our advisors, IS, and marketing have decided to add a new addition to our campuses. We plan to purchase multiple charging stations for both Butler of Andover and Butler of El Dorado, where students will be able to charge their phones on the go if they need to. And we're really looking forward to the purchase of these to have on both our campuses. And finally, also coming up will be our first SGA meeting at Butler of Andover on February 17th at 4 p.m. in the Student Union, room 10142.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to operational staff. Lisa Bolin, are you with us?
Okay, good evening. I am Lisa Bolin, the president of operational staff. I don't have anything to update you on this evening. Our first operational staff meeting of this year will be this Thursday, February 11th. So hopefully next time when I see you guys in March, I will have something to update you with. So I hope you all have a good evening and stay warm, and I will see you next month.
Thank you for being here, Lisa.
You're welcome.
And we'll move on to professional employees report. Terry, are you available?
Yes. Tonight I have two announcements to make. In fact, they're announcements that I look forward to every year as a part of my duties. The first announcement is for this year's Master Teacher recipient. Every year, the association chooses the best among the best. This is an individual that his colleagues or her colleagues feel excels in service to the college, service to the profession, to the community, and is the epitome of excellence in the classroom. This year's Master Teacher Award recipient is Corey Tubner. Corey Tubner is an English professor here at Butler, and his accomplishments, well, I'm going to abbreviate them because there are so many, but he was a founding member of the faculty development team. He has had a long and passionate interest in inclusion and the inclusion team here at Butler Community College. He has, well, I don't want to say single-handedly, but he has definitely taken the lead in developing our professional development or PD courses. Corey, did I get that right? Is that PD courses for our students here at Butler Community College. He was on the forefront in pursuing the AVID program, and he may have been the first to ever mention to me the word pathways. He's on the forefront of education innovation, and we're certainly lucky to have him. On a personal note, I could have invited my oldest daughter to come and give a testimonial to Corey's excellence as an instructor. She had him as both a Composition 1 and Composition 2 instructor, and absolutely loved the class and credited her achievements in the class to Corey's excellent teaching. So I hope you will join me in showing appreciation for Corey's many achievements and welcoming him as this year's Master Teacher.
Congratulations, Corey. We got one more thing.
Corey, did you want to say anything or?
Well, I'll just say this, gosh, you listed all those things that we do so well at Butler, and said that I'm at the forefront of all that. And I think that if I'm at the forefront, it's because I'm following close behind, some of the other really, truly inspiring people that work here in all of those projects, from Mark Jarvis and faculty development team to Kathy McCoskey, who's been a real mentor to me with respect to ALP and just classroom presence and teaching and how to do things right. Phil Speary, who's helped spearhead AVID and our PD courses that so many students are taking. I mean, it's really, really exciting to get this kind of recognition, especially when I see so many people around me who've who I'm still trying really hard to be like. So, and that goes for you too, Terry. Man, you and I were in the first Summer Jam huddles together when that was an inaugural thing that was still just like, like a fleeting idea in Mark Jarvis's kooky brain. And look what became of all that. So yeah, it's been really fun and inspiring to work here at Butler for sure. So thank you very much for this recognition.
Thanks,
Thank
Corey.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. The other announcement that I have that always excites me is to give preface. Back in 2018, the association established a scholarship award. And this year, our scholarship committee has chosen 2 students to receive the association's scholarships. The first student is Chloe Lill. She's from Valley Center, and she is majoring in secondary education. And the second student is Laura Burke. She is from Mulvane, and she is majoring in elementary education. We are all very, very proud of these young women and very glad to do what we can to help them in their educational progress. So if you see any of these students around, I hope you'll give them a high five or something for this achievement.
Terry, is the scholarship for so many hours or so much money?
The scholarship is worth a total of $500 a year. This year, the committee chose to divide that $500 to 2 students instead of 1. And I think that had to do with the students that had applied.
Very good.
Terry, thank you very much. And congratulations again, Corey. I think we're going to jump back to discuss culinary arts. Our speakers there are available now and ready to go.
Okay.
So Laura, I'll have you invite them in. Dr. Crowell, if you want to.
Sure. We've been discussing culinary the last period of time, and lots of moving parts still happening, lots of opportunities kind of on the horizon. We'll have some additional information as we move into March, but I thought it would be beneficial for the board to hear from a couple of our advisory committee members on their perspective on the program, the importance of moving it forward, their perspective on strengthening it and sustaining it. And so I want to introduce to you Scott Redler, who's co-founder and COO of Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers. Scott's been a long time advisory committee member and really helped launch this program a number of years ago. Also with Scott is Les Podzenski. Les, for a number of years in his career, was the vice president of food and beverage for Warren Theaters, and is now working alongside Scott. They were partners, I think, back in the 1990s in some ventures, but they're working together again now. And Les is, I think, helping with franchising for Freddy's. And so I asked them to join. I also have, I think, on Zoom, Greg Cole. I want you to put a name and a face together, and we'll let Greg say hi here in just a little bit, but wanted you to recognize and get acquainted with Greg. Greg is a dyed-in-the-wool Butler faculty member. He's teaches a lot of our baking classes, very accomplished baker and an amazing instructor and leader in our program. He's our lead instructor this spring and doing a great job, and we're excited to have you meet Greg. So Scott and Les, I think we'll invite you folks in to visit with the board and have you give us a little bit of insight from your perspective on the importance of the advisory committee, what you've done to help with the program, what you see from a long-term perspective about the program, and what some of our opportunities are moving forward. If you would like to help us with that.
Happy to, and thank you, Kim. We appreciate that. And
Sure.
Les and I are in the same room, as you can tell, which we've been working together for almost 30 years, so that's okay. It's kind of interesting. I've been involved with the board for over 25 years, almost from the inception of the program, I believe, and have been a big supporter and believer in the program. So I'm also involved on the board of the National Restaurant Association and understanding big picture culinary direction that's happening nationwide. The hospitality industry is one of the industries that you can start with nothing and end up with being very, very successful in your career, and I think it has fit Butler's program very well and has grown to a certain level, and truly believe it's time to take it to the next level. Every one of our restaurants in the country right now would love to hire more people, more qualified people. And this isn't just talking about Freddy's, this is talking about full service restaurants and everything else from every hospitality aspect is looking for great people. And futures are there for people that put the energy and have the knowledge and move forward in our industry. And truly believe that's what this is all about. This program has gained notoriety in the South Central Kansas area for a long time. And the culinary program is the sexy fun program. And it's the fun one when pre-COVID, a lot of awards were won by the culinary program for a lot of years. I'm a supporter of the program, not any individuals. I believe the program is ripe to move forward and go to the next level. I've seen programs around the country that have done this successfully, and this really does fit, in my opinion, in the Butler wheelhouse. And happy to answer questions too as they may arise. And I'm going to let Les chat a little here. So,
well, I've been with Butler for almost as long as Scott has. I actually taught years and years ago in some of the programs. I remember when I was in my hotel and restaurant management school, one of my teachers said, one of the most important things you should do is be involved with your industry, be involved with your industry's programs, and always promote it as much as you can, which is what I've done. I also sit on the Kansas Hospitality and Restaurant Association board and have been a past president of that a couple years ago. I have hired Butler students in my programs for Warren Theaters. Some of them have gone on to do very well. Obviously, the theater business isn't happening right now, but they have found other ways to market their skills that they learned at Butler. I think it's important, as Scott said, that we take this program and move it to the next level. And I think that we have the talent and the knowledge and the people in our community to help move it forward. And I think it would be, I think it's beneficial. I think Butler, like Scott said, has a great reputation of their program.
And another point, we do have 3 current employees that have gone through the Butler's program that are doing very well. One is actually a franchisee. One is a general manager of one of our local Freddy's, and came up through the Butler system. And we're very proud of them, and they're proud to be representing Butler in our industry. So we welcome any questions, but
yeah, questions?
Could either of you define what you mean by take it to the next level?
Well, so we've been operating where we've been located and the facilities we have. We need to go to when I say next level, it's equipment related, it's space related, it's commitment on Butler's part, quite honestly, to take it to a level that we've seen in other parts of the country. And there's no question the demand for hospitality workers is solid as any other industry and won't go away. It's not a cyclical thing. Even during the pandemic, when a lot of industries have laid people off, we're looking to hire people all day long. So it's an equipment, it's a space, it's reviewing the curriculum to make sure that we are making it a regional program instead of a South Central Kansas program, make it a little bigger. So it's space and money, just like normal, and equipment.
All right. My concern is that WSU Tech is doing the same thing with us now, head to head, and whatever space we have, they're going to be, sounds like about 5 times that of equipment and kitchens. So that's what gives me pause. Because a lot of our students come from Sedgwick County, and now there's going to be a program in Sedgwick County, and I don't personally want to spend a lot of money to renovate somewhere real big right away. I'd like to see what's happening before we commit a bunch of money.
Yeah, and I understand that position all the way. We're at a point that if we have 2 directions here, in my opinion, and it's either fold up and go home or go big and do a better job. And yeah, do I think it's going to be competitive with WSU Tech? Of course. But with the knowledge that I have of everything going on in both arenas there, I think that bringing in the right talent level of leadership in the culinary program and hospitality program will far outweigh what WSU Tech can do.
Sir, I would like to ask you another question.
Sure.
I like to look at things long-term. If minimum wage does go up to $15 an hour, financially that is going to hurt. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt many professions. Most people think it's going to help, but I think the poor are going to get poorer and the rich are going to get richer. How do you see if the minimum wage does go up, how is that going to hinder the hospitality food business?
That's an excellent question, by the way. Thank you. So we do believe that we're going to see a minimum, and this is based on a national basis. We do believe we're going to see minimum wages going up. We think they're going to be scaled up, and we do think that we don't believe we're going to see a $15 an hour minimum wage nationwide. We think that there's enough people on both sides of the fence that understand that the minimum wage in a small town in Kansas shouldn't be what New York should be. And we are going to see some escalation. Even if we do, we think the model is going to change, and the shortage of people is still there, still going to occur. I know the numbers from the National Restaurant Association are 1.3 million jobs lost if minimum wage goes to 15. But the reality is, if it does go to 15, it's going to go on a scale of 5 to 7 to 10 years, depending on the state. And hopefully we can keep minimum wage at a state discussion versus a national discussion. So yes, we're not excited about it because we do think it has impact as you described. I think you're spot on. But the industry is going to continue, and the need for great people is absolutely going to continue.
One last question from me. What is your percentage in each restaurant of the counter help compared to management help? Would you say it's 90-10?
Oh, so we have an average of, let's say we have an average of 45 per restaurant, and we have between manager and supervisory in our corporate locations, we have 7 to 9 in management supervisory, typically 5 on salary and 3 or 4 supervisors. And looking for more right now, today. The demand is there.
Thank you.
I'm one of the best success stories from Butler, other than you have a graduate that is a franchisee, is Chris Williams at our Rouge Freddy's, who is an amazing individual that just does an incredible job for us and for himself and his family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. You're going to have to speak into your microphone, Julie.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. My name is Trustee Winslow, and I'm from the Andover Rose Hill area. What I was going to ask first is, Freddy's is like one of my favorite restaurants. It's really hard for me to maintain my waistline
We're going to get
and
along
live
great.
anywhere near one of your restaurants. But aside from that, I'm looking at your idea or your vision. What is your vision of how we as Butler Culinary can set ourselves apart from WSU? Do you know enough intimate details about what they may have planned? And do you know enough about what we may have planned to make any kind of comparison? Or what is your vision to how that's going to work?
Well, let me say this, and my wife and I are supporters of Butler. We have a scholarship fund that's in our name in the hospitality program. We've had it for 4 or 5 years. And I'm not a good money after bad person. And yes, I know a lot that's going on both sides. And we are committed to financially assist making this thing happen because we need to be better. We need to be the leader. I would never want to go into this trying to, oh goody, we can be in second place, is not me. And I've been involved with this program for, I think since its inception. Actually, nobody can remember when I got on the board. But there's a demand. So there's no question in my mind that success can occur if we make the right decisions moving forward. And
Oh, go ahead.
So I
Go ahead.
guess I'm just looking for maybe your vision as to what those right decisions might be, or are you willing to participate on some kind of a forward panel to ensure that we make the right decisions if we continue down the culinary path?
Well, I try to get off this panel and no one lets me get off the board. So I'm going to be here for a while. I'm not going anywhere. And we're prepared to commit financially, but the main thing is that we need to have a location that the facility is great. There's a lot of vision that's out there right now, and I'm sure it's going to be shared with the board at the appropriate time. But we need to build a facility that is worthy of what we're trying to do. We can't do it in a old rec center. I mean, we made that work for a long time, too long actually. It's time to take it to a level that we're proud of everything that we do, and we're a proud asset of the Butler Community College organization.
There are some really strong opportunities for partnerships that we're exploring with other institutions, with industry partners. And there's some things that have to come together, over the next few weeks. But there's some exciting opportunities out there for our students to create pathways into the industry. Scott and Les both kind of reaffirmed that there's great leadership out there in the industry that we can utilize in our classrooms and through internships with our students, and offer some things that maybe we haven't been able to do in the past, again, because of location and just some program constraints. And we now have, as we bring it back into Andover, we have a lot of freedom to do some things maybe that we hadn't been able to do in the past, because we've had to ask for approval for our classes and our curriculum and our location from WSU and WSU Tech, both because that's their service area. So just being able to come back into Butler County creates some new opportunities for us from a decision-making perspective and from a programmatic perspective. I think that will be really positive. And especially with advisory committee members like we've got and commitment to the program, they're going to help lead those changes for us. So Greg Cole, are you on too?
I am here.
Okay, you're leading the charge this spring. You want to provide a little bit of insight from your perspective and your connections in the community and your experience as not only as an instructor, but as an entrepreneur.
I do, and I appreciate the opportunity to at least have a few words in this conversation, because I still believe we're fortunate in the fact that we still have people that support and the backing of people like Les and Scott that are supportive and in our corner. And I don't believe that there's an opportunity for us to be in second place at all. I think we have the opportunity to remain in first place because we are in such a demand, and our feet are planted in the soil right now. We have an advantage far greater than what we would ever have, than what Wichita Tech will have, in that we have a lot of past graduates that are out there now marketing for us. They're franchising with organizations like Scott. We got Chris and them doing good things, but we have people nationwide now that are graduates of Butler that are doing extremely well. So I don't see us digressing. I see us progressing and just moving forward in a new direction. We were fortunate to hire some of the best chefs in the city of Wichita now. We've got some nutritionists and dietitians, and we're looking better than we've ever had. And so I'm encouraged by what I see. And certainly, I think we have an opportunity to do much more than what we've done in the past, and the groundwork is already there.
Thanks, Greg.
I would maybe ask the three of you guys, what do you see happening if we build something bigger, better, or just, is it going to be, we build something big and more people will come and they're going to ignore their competition in Wichita? I mean, our profitability last year at the program was $62,000. That's not a lot of money to be throwing at buildings and equipment. And I think the time to expand and go super huge was just like a year ago. And now we're going head to head, and it's going to be a knockdown, drag out fight, and not just everything will be fine because we think it will.
Do I think a year ago would have been great? I agree 100% with you on that. But we are where we are. And when I look at it, and I think the demand, there's more demand than students. If I was a student in Butler or Sedgwick County and went over to Boston Rec, it would be hard to get very excited about joining that program. It's good. And we've done a heck of a lot, more than we ever thought we could do with that program there. But the vision to have a place, I think there's room for both of us, both, honestly. We would have preferred one school, of course, but I think there's plenty of room for both. And I think we retain people that would have gone to Johnson Community College and other area culinary schools and management schools. The demand for our industry is tremendous. There's 1 million restaurants in the country. Well, 900,000 after COVID, but they're all going to come back. There's going to be plenty of demand and plenty of people looking for new careers. And our industry is one that really can take just about anybody and start with nothing and become very successful. That's me. I started with nothing. And there's plenty of those out there. And I think we're going to see the demand and the fun. And I think overall, there's also a marketing play that's a marketing value for Butler overall, when we have a facility and maybe once a month there's a theme dinner hosted by that the students are preparing somewhere. And that's the recognition. It helps the whole school's marketing. So I think plenty of demand out there.
My personal view, I guess, I've seen our students decline total credit hours 5 to 7% per year for the last 5-ish years. We're not going to have an increase in demand no matter what we build. I don't see, is it just how and why are more kids going to come if we build something bigger in Butler County?
I'll compare it to something that I know. I know that when we do a remodel in a restaurant, our sales go up. When we build a new restaurant, there's a reason that, Taco Bell or McDonald's will build a brand new building on their parking lot and tear down the building next to that one. We are in an old facility, and if anybody here, I think we're proud of what we have, but if we think we're meeting demand by the back room in Boston Rec Center, I think we have some other thoughts we need to think about.
Well, I think tearing down your buildings and building across the streets also tax depreciation and write-offs, not just to increase your business.
I understand that, but it's to increase your business, number one, first and foremost, and always will be.
I think there's also, again, opportunities because of partnerships and going some different directions with this program and not having it just be culinary and hospitality, which is sort of traditional. There are some really neat and innovative and non-traditional pathways now that can be pursued. We have some opportunities to do that and some people that are excited about that. And so, all those kinds of things engage enrollment and create excitement. And it's about putting that complete package together, not only with facility and staff and recruiting and marketing and, and just really hard work to get out and connecting with the high school students and the Pro Start programs and all of those kinds of things. And so we have a great opportunity here, I think. So.
One more question. Do you suppose, as one of our really respected leaders on this type of effort, would you be willing to go out and maybe partner with other similar environments as Freddy's or anything even related, and maybe organize some sort of a even partial tuition program if students attended Butler Culinary, to kind of help us justify growth where we don't really have the growth in the students right now to justify it? That'd be just so great if we could count on something like that kind of effort.
First of all, that's my wife and I've already started that, and I've shared some plans that hopefully, if we move forward, our support level is going to make what we've done in the past look small. And understand also the program. Leadership is critical. And I can give you reasons for the decline, in my opinion. And I believe that with the proper leadership, our growth in enrollment, our growth with everything, graduation and success will be fantastic. The right leader in any business makes a difference. And I can tell you that everybody goes, how do I get my restaurant busier? I go, have a great general manager. it's always management. And I think we can take it to the next level and hire the right person and people. And Greg did an incredible job with his description, but take us to the next level. I think that's going to happen. And I think you're going to see the support in the community. And I'm a person that doesn't like to go out and ask people for money, but I'm going to. And we're going to, because I want this thing to succeed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate your comments and I appreciate your effort and certainly your support of the college.
Scott and Les and Greg, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything at all for them? We really appreciate your time and expertise, and I imagine we'll talk to you again down the line in regards to this.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. I know your schedules are busy, but really appreciate you joining us tonight. And Greg, you too as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate
For us,
it.
this is a high payoff activity, and we're believers. So
Absolutely.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will jump back to standing reports.
Yeah.
And the finance committee, I believe, good.
I have a question. Was that the extent of the culinary discussion for tonight?
Yeah, I just wanted them to join us and provide some advisory committee information.
Doug or Shelby, anything on the finance?
Our spring enrollment's up a tiny bit more than we thought. That's about all we got out of it, I think. So we got it.
Tax revenue shortages is less than anticipated. In fact, we're going to generate more of a tax revenue than what we budgeted.
Good. And Forrester, Dr. Crawley, anything from the foundation? I see a card in front of me.
Wow, that's a great lead in, Lance. The board has not met, but the one big thing coming up are the foundation's annual fundraiser, the auction, which will be virtual this year, courtesy of COVID. But you've got a brochure there in front of you. Would encourage everybody, if you're able to participate. Again, you can do it from the comfort of your living room and your PJs and your easy chair and your own drink. And the foundation does some great things. I mean, Julie, to your point about scholarships, that's what the foundation exists to do. And we can use all the support we can, especially from those of us in here in this room.
I think I actually got one of these in the mail. So
You might have, yeah.
The only question I would have is, again, how you're going to do it so that, we can register it, in a regular silent auction. People sneak up to the table, write it down, but it's going to be harder.
I'll reach out to the foundation staff and make sure that they can provide some information on how to do it, because I don't even know how to do it yet.
I think the link, my wife has already got us registered through the link that's on that page.
Does it tell you how to bid
it was.
online and all of that sort of stuff too? Okay.
Yeah, I think they're pretty straightforward, I think.
You want me to have like Haley or
No,
somebody
it's
call you?
okay. If the rules are all there, I mean, I don't mind registering, but I'd like to know what the rules are before I register. If possible.
My initial thought when I got this was a Christmas card for Butler because of all the stars. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, auction. Okay. So
It's just missing the manger.
We will move on to the president's report.
Yeah.
Roll.
Thank you. I wanted to just remind folks and kind of loop back around to some of the questions that you asked last month. We put the ag transfer information, the articulation agreements, and the past years of the board evals on SharePoint for you. The EMSI information and the culinary information that you requested. Well, let me back up. The EMSI information, the question last month was, how many other colleges are using it? How recently have they used it? And so that information was in your board overview that I sent. You had also asked for some kind of regional information on the impact of the pandemic on the Hotel and Restaurant Association, and ESOM went back and dug through to find what he could find on some of those statistics, and I included that in your board overview as well. And then Laura had emailed the ESOM's presentation from his conference to you But I also included a link to a paper that was published that kind of goes along with the economic impact of community colleges on the region. And so that was in your board overview. We, just a reminder that negotiations training is scheduled for February 24th from 4 to 5 p.m. The Zoom link was sent on the 27th of January to you. If you need us to resend that to you, we can do that. And if you're not able to attend that training, I'm happy to contact Matt Ward, who's the superintendent at Augusta. Doug's going to do his training with the Board of Education in Augusta. So if you're not able to be here on the 24th or to Zoom in on the 24th for that training, we can probably connect you with through Doug with Matt to participate in the Augusta training. And that is that training face-to-face, Doug?
Zoom also probably.
Is it Zoom? Okay.
I'll need the link again.
Okay, Laura, will you send? Why don't you just send it?
I remember
everybody
seeing
again,
it, but
so
it's 200 emails down
yeah.
the line.
Why don't you just send it to everybody?
Only
again, so it's kind
200?
of front and center.
I don't believe them all, so there.
We had our first MGB team meeting yesterday. We schedule those every Monday afternoon throughout the spring. Faculty team and the administrative team got together and just started our conversations on the negotiations process. I wanted to let you know that Keith West, who is longtime faculty member, communications, he also oversees the radio station KDTL. They just submitted their update of licensing for the radio station to the FTC and are in the process right now of doing the announcements that that licensing has been submitted and is being renewed. And so we'll once all of that, those little steps take place, then we'll be have our final license agreement again. So KDTL is our college radio station. Use our students, our media students, broadcast the basketball games and football games and stuff, and do their own radio shows on the college radio station. Wanted to share a little bit of good news with you about a couple of our athletes. I know some of you probably have seen this on Facebook, but a couple of weeks ago, our softball team was in San Antonio for a large weekend tournament. This time of year, they'll do those kinds of things and head where it's warm and get started on their season. But they were out after games in the evening and found a wallet on a sidewalk and picked the wallet up, looked to see if they could find some identification, ID cards, and couldn't find really any contact information in the wallet. But they found, obviously found the gentleman's name, found him on Facebook, tried to friend him, tried to send a message to him to see if he would respond, and didn't get any kind of a response. And so they went to 4 different hotels in the area to see if he was registered. They really put forth a lot of effort to find this man. Wasn't able to find him, weren't able to find him at the hotels in the area. They found his workplace on Facebook, and he's an owner of a mortuary. And so they called the mortuary, and one of the employees answered the phone, and the employee then got a message to the gentleman that owned the wallet. And so he and his wife were from Oregon and on vacation in San Antonio. So they made a connection to meet in the hotel where they were staying. And so our girls could return the wallet. Offered a reward to them, but they turned it down. So anyway, kind of a fun story about a great group of girls. And then the end of January, one of the guys that plays on our football team was traveling down 254 with another group of friends in a car, and the car behind him was hit by a drunk driver. And so he turned around and went back to the scene of the accident. And Tavi and the friend that was in the other car played football together when they were in high school. They were high school friends. And so Tavi pulled his friend who was unconscious out of the wreck, and they got him to the hospital, and he's okay. But good students, good kids, good Samaritans. Yeah. I guess that's all I have to report. If you've got questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I just had one thing regarding sports. Is there any way, I know we're waiting to hear if we have permission to let people into the events, but at some point, can we just say, hey, we're going to do a temperature check and mask and social distance and allow something, or do we have to wait?
let me fill you in on that. Thanks for asking that. Jayhawk Conference presidents voted a week ago that we would allow 25% of the gym capacity in for spectators. But that includes the teams, the opposing teams, the referees, everybody. And so right now, our athletic department has specifically reached out to the Grizzly backers, the ones that financially support the program, to reach out to them first to see if they need tickets. We're going to vote again the 1st of March about whether to increase the capacity even further. And I think once we get maybe beyond some of those, if we can get beyond some of those limits, we may be able to take, walk-in traffic. But right now, they're just really trying to control the traffic, not taking any visitors for the opposite team except the opposing team players right now and coaches, trying to really kind of control things. So we haven't set guidelines for that yet. I think the outdoor sports will be a little bit different just because you're outside. So it's the inside things right now, men's and women's basketball and volleyball and wrestling, that we're trying to control the capacity. No concessions, so that because masks are mandatory by everybody except those playing. Lots of guidelines in place about social distancing and things like that. So trying to still manage all those protocols right now.
I just want to make sure that we're getting people that want to be really involved in it, and even if we weren't allowed to.
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll let you know when those guidelines open back up. But right now, still a lot of kind of guidelines around who gets to be there and who doesn't.
No,
in fact, when we played Hutch the other night and beat both the men and the women, I talked to TC the next morning, and he said, "Why were you not at the game?" And I said, "Because I'm not supposed to be there. I'm not part of, the team or the coaches or anything like that." And he said, "Well, you're the president of the college." And I said, "Well, I'm following the KJCCC guidelines. I'm not supposed to be there yet." So anyway, he was teasing me about, not being there, but we're trying to do things the right way. So thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm.
We'll keep you posted on it.
I didn't even watch the Super Bowl, so I'm not that into
sports. Oh, so you're not saying
that
you'll come watch basketball?
No, I won't watch basketball.
Okay.
But I think people that are really interested need to get there and get the excitement going.
Yeah, we do.
Do we have a way to broadcast any of that?
Oh, it's all live streamed. Yeah, it's all live streamed. You can go to the college website.
That's better than nothing.
Yeah. Yep. And it's nice for the athletes whose families live, even out of state or far away, so it's all live streamed, broadcast on the radio. Our students broadcast it on KBTL. So yeah, everybody pretty much has access to it if they want to, at least remotely.
Any other questions for Dr. Kroll? If not, we'll move on to the education facilities. Is there any news there to speak of?
The only thing that we have ongoing is repairing a water leak. It's ground surface water in one of the locker rooms that is threatening a breaker panel. So that's not a good combination of water and electricity. So we've authorized some work to be done to get that addressed.
Okay, good. Thank you. Move on to monitoring reports. I believe Dr. Nichols.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep. Yep.
Nope,
He's
he's in
there.
the
You want to
corner
come
there.
sit over here? Come sit over here
All
so
right,
you can.
we'll look at the Zoom. I know we are. Thank you for being here.
Oh, of course. All right. Good afternoon. Thank
Hello.
you for being here and for allowing me to speak. I got to be honest, this really is one of my favorite days of the year, where I get an opportunity to brag on my division and the activities that are going on there. Can everybody hear me okay with this on? Okay, if it's too bad, just let me know. But thank you for the opportunity to speak to each of you and to tell you about the things that are going on in the Fine Arts and Communication Division. I could spend all of my time bragging on the faculty that I serve with. The 17 full-time faculty are outstanding. I literally cannot think of any one of those 17 that does not pull his or her weight and do such a fantastic job. So I'm really thrilled to serve alongside of them. In addition to that, I mean, they're all experts in their fields, and I think the most important trait that I see with all of the faculty members are a compassion for the students. And I've seen that particularly this past year with everything that's related to COVID and the protocols and restrictions. The compassion that the faculty members have toward the students and trying to see them succeed and overcome some of these challenges that we're all facing. They've really stepped up to the plate and made provision for performances, for art exhibits, for all of these things, so the students can still gain valuable experience, even though we have all of the challenges that are facing us right now. So with that being said, let me take a little bit of time here and point out a few things in my report. On page 4, I'd like to point out the 3 full-time faculty in the art department. They're so active still in their craft. It's one thing for faculty members just to show up in the classroom, teach, do their job here on campus, and then go home. But our art faculty in particular, they are still very active in their craft. And so I wanted to highlight a few of those things. Valerie Herring, she had a show at the City Arts in Wichita, and then the Mangenberg Art Gallery in Lindsborg. Tricia Coates, she was awarded first place at the Salina Biennial, and she also has a work that's on permanent display at the hotel in Kansas City, the lobby. So we're really proud of that accomplishment for her. Rachel Foster, she did an exhibit, I think it was last spring, at Newman University, and then she also has another exhibit that was selected for Tulsa, an art exhibit down there, art gallery down there. So all 3 of them, as I said, are still extremely active, and that is really good for our students to see their involvement. And they're not just there to teach classes and go home, but they really want to be a model for our students. Moving on to dance, the dance department. We have 2 adjuncts. Valerie Mack is the chair of both dance and music, and she teaches tap dance. And but we also have DeAndre Teagle, who is one of our other adjuncts. He and his wife, they both teach dance for us, and they're fantastic because they also work in the community in a dance studio. They teach there, and we're thrilled to have them as part of our faculty. Our graduates, in the last paragraph there in the report, that you can see that our graduates have gone on to dance at off-Broadway shows and Carnegie Hall, and some of them even worked for Disney World down in Florida.
And they're going face to face.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Both last semester and this semester. They use social distancing and wear masks and things like that, which of course wearing a mask while you're dancing is quite a challenge. But my son is even in that program, and so I go in there and watch from time to time and observe what they're doing. They're doing a fantastic job, even with all the restrictions. Moving on to mass communication. I want to point out the last paragraph under that section. I wrote there, in spite of COVID-19 restrictions, our students have continued to excel in statewide awards. In 2020, Kansas Association of Broadcasters Student Production Contest, 9 of our students received a total of 5 first place and 5 second place and 4 honorable mention awards. So Mike Suanne and Keith West are doing a fantastic job with our students. We have a couple of adjuncts as well. Amy Chastain, she works with the Lantern. But all of them are doing a fantastic job with our students, and I'm thrilled to be able to champion them here this afternoon. Moving on to music. Music's divided into 2 sections: vocal music and instrumental music. Our 3 full-time vocal instrument, our vocal faculty. Valerie Mack is the chair. Matt Udlin is a vocal instructor, and Chad Ingram. And all 3 of them do a fantastic job. One of the paragraphs there on page 8 In the middle, each year, the Butler Choirs organized music, theater, choral festival, bringing in students from 18 different high schools. This past February, we put on a Valentine's Cabaret, and it was a sold-out event. One of the purposes for that event was to fund a trip that was going to go to New York City in May, but that trip fell through. But it was still a great event. And then just before COVID restrictions went into place in March, the show choir went to Kansas City and performed for over 1,000 students from across the country. So it was great exposure for us. And then, as I mentioned before, one of the things that our faculty have been very innovative and creative with outlets, even with the restrictions that have been in place. And Matt Udland put together the virtual Hallelujah Chorus event. We had 120 musicians that were being broadcast on that, and that performance was viewed over 12,000 times just within the first couple of weeks. So that's great exposure for our vocal department. Instrumental department, one of the things that happened this past year in particular was bringing on a string faculty member, adjunct member, Shelly Graves, who plays with the Wichita Symphony, and she's working with their string group. They had their first concert last spring, I believe it was. And so it's great to have her. She's very active in the community. And to have her a part of what's going on here is fantastic. Brett Martinez does a fantastic job with all of our bands. This year was a little challenging with COVID restrictions, but all of our performances moved online. And we had a Celebration of Freedom concert back in November, and that was a successful performance. Again, it was online. But the one thing that was interesting about that, even with all of the challenges here, one thing that college students don't often get an opportunity to do is to record, because there's so much live performance that goes on. And one of the benefits, if I can say it this way, one of the benefits to being cooped up for COVID, it gave the students to have opportunities to record. And the difference between a live performance and a recording is, in a live performance, you basically have one shot at it. Whatever comes out, comes out. Whereas in a recording, you can take multiple takes. So our students had the opportunity to perform in a recording environment to where you can work to perfect the performance. And so it was a good opportunity. But I got to be honest, our students are really wanting to perform live. And that has a huge impact on the students, and having a live audience there, having their family members there. So this spring, we're trying to get back to a live performance setting where they're going to be performing outside. And that's the goal for the end of this semester. Joel Knudsen is our keyboard instructor, and that rounds out our instrumental faculty. Moving on to speech. The Department of Communication is the largest department in the Fine Arts and Communication Division. There are a lot of sections of freshman speech that are being taught there. We're continuing to move more and more of our courses, speech courses, online. And in fact, Butler is really the first all online 2-year degree that's been offered in Kansas. That's one of the things that we're very proud of. A lot of other schools now are adding online sections to their course offerings, but Alexis Hopkins and Greg May were really instrumental in moving our courses to an online format. Kateri and Matt, Kateri Grillett and Matt Webster are also on the speech faculty, and all four of them work together really, really nicely. Wherever somebody is sick, they'll fill in for each other. And I've seen them reach out to their students who are struggling. Speech is one of those classes that the fear of public speaking, as we know, is sometimes worse than dentist or these other things. So they have a unique challenge to be able to reach out to these students that are really struggling sometimes, and to have an impact in their lives. And I've seen that happen multiple times. But being able to offer this 2-year speech degree in an online format, and being the first to do that is a huge advantage for us. And then lastly, I'll speak for the theater department. Bob Peterson is our chair of theater, and he does a fantastic job working with our students and performances. Sam Sparks and Bernie are also on our theater faculty, and all three of them work well together. This past, again, with our live performances being a challenge this past year, I reached out to them and I said, look, let's do what we do best. Let's be creative. Let's find a way to make the best out of this worst situation that we're in. And so when Bob was putting his plans together for speech, he presented his speech performance in a Reader's Theater style, which is where the actors are distant from each other. They're all saying their lines independently. Sam Sparks did the same thing. He did a performance that was based on Charles Dickens' Christmas story and our Christmas Carol, and also took that, he did it in sort of a vintage radio theater type performance where certain of the cast were down making sound effects and others were at their mics reading the story. And then we took that performance and then turned it into a podcast. So taking all of these lemons that were being given and turning them into lemonade, I think was really the key for this past year. And I just thought our faculty did a fantastic job in every department with all these obstacles.
Is something like you just mentioned possible, like Music Theater Wichita's coming to Andover? Is that something we could consider too, if there's availability for us to go do something like that, do it outdoor theater?
Oh, I'm not familiar with what they're doing, but yeah, we're always looking.
Wichita just said, hey, we're going to come to Andover and do our shows outdoors for real, and we're going to do it. So I mean, it's kind of inspiring that they're not going to wait around and get shut down another year, but
yeah,
they're doing something different.
But the amphitheater in Andover.
Yeah, I imagine there would be plenty of time for us to do stuff there as well.
We looked at doing a performance back in the fall at the Andover Theater. The price, the cost of the venue was one challenge for us. The other one was, the potential of weather, inclement weather. And so that's where we decided, let's focus on doing either live streaming or to do recordings for the fall, and then focus on doing some live events in the spring. But one of the ideas is to perform at the north side of this building because there's a big lawn there where people could bring chairs and sit outside for the band concert one weekend, and then the next weekend do the choir concert.
Okay. What about the children's theater? Will you be?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. That's been moved up until this summer.
Okay.
So we normally have it this month in February, but it's been moved into the summer for this year to give us a little bit more time to prepare for that, and also gives kids something to do in the summer. And again, this is the plan is to do this as an outdoor performance, probably in the courtyard here on campus.
Now, will it be free for all children?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's been such an asset for kids who are not exposed culturally to these things.
Yeah, and Bob Peterson typically writes all the scripts for those things, and he has a recurring theme that he uses. Alvin the Alligator, he uses this. I think he's written 7 of those plays now. So
at least.
Oh yeah, he's so creative, and the kids come back year after year waiting to see Alvin the Alligator. And quite honestly, on the long term, I know a lot of students come to Butler because they were exposed to children's theater when they were younger. And so it sort of plants in their mind, hey, Butler's an opportunity for me to look at for a college.
Valerie Lippolt Mack's father was my 7th grade music teacher.
Nice. Well, there you go.
I can't sing them.
That's
And
okay.
I had just a couple of questions.
Sure.
The price of the Andover Amphitheater, do you know what it is? Can you tell me what that was?
I don't recall right now. I just remember as we were talking through it, because we started talking about it back last summer. And we just started looking at the possibility of performing there. And I just remember the cost was, it wasn't insurmountable, but it was an obstacle.
There's an amphitheater at the lake too. That is nice.
Here in El Dorado? Or?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
At the lake.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
I was going to ask you
Yes.
if there's any other venues that you might have explored more in Butler County. If
Yes.
possible, I'd really like to see more venues there. I understand it might not be as well attended because of our population, but I'd sure like to see Butler County more focused. You know, as a person who never had a problem with speech, how do you do that online? Because I remember, although I didn't have a problem with it, so many of my classmates had that problem in college. And by the time I got to college, I'd already had 4 years of speech in high school because they offered 4 years, and it was really easy for me. So,
Well,
like a lot of other kids, I picked the easy stuff sometimes. So,
right.
so if the biggest thing that people have to get over is the public speaking, I'm not sure how you can tell me how you can deal with that online. I'm sure there's a way.
Yeah. I haven't observed one of the classes, but I do know that it's set up in such a way that while they're giving their speech, they're in a Zoom format, and so they're seeing their classmates watching them while they're giving the speech.
Okay, so like the teacher might be focused on maybe the entire Zoom classroom, you know, like it's in a classroom setting.
Right. Yeah, because they meet at a particular time. It's a synchronous online class. They meet at a particular time each week to give their speeches. They give their speeches live. They don't record their speeches and submit them.
I have two daughters in that program right
okay.
now, and they were lamenting the fact, oh, we gotta Zoom live. I'm like, yeah, cry me a river.
Right.
I mean, that's still nerve wracking, but not as the same.
That
as
is
Not like real,
compared
like
to
in
what
real life.
we had to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through.
So
I
sure.
mean, I don't feel like it is. But
Yeah, it is.
They're getting a little bit of the pressure of the people watching. They have to do it live while people are watching.
Yes.
Which does make them nervous. Which
And I
they
think
need to be.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that it does in today's culture, now that we've all experienced the past 9-10 months of COVID, being able to speak in an online setting, I think, is becoming more and more important. And there's going to be. I'm on. Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. How many of us have started to talk and
That is likely going away.
And keeping in
no, and
mind,
it's not.
and keeping in mind that you are on Zoom, in public.
Yeah, that's important.
Sure.
the can you hear me now is going to go away.
Yes.
You're muted.
Be replaced.
Has there been any noticeable impact as far as the speech program, as far as enrollment, with being able to do it all online, or has that been or has it been that way long enough, really?
Yes, it really, it's been that way long enough that students are actually moving more toward an online format for speech. So we're opening up more sections for online. I think
enrollment in there, would you say, I mean, as far as hours moving up?
yes, because we're constantly having to add more sections for online. I think part of it is just scheduling. Being able to schedule an online section is very beneficial, especially for a class that's a gen ed. I mean, it's one thing if you're taking a major, you want that face-to-face interaction. But when something is a gen ed, students tend to be okay with taking that in an online format. That was one of the, I guess, things that was an impetus for moving that to an online format, is it just gives us more flexibility, more options.
Very good.
Sure.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, can we take like a 5-minute break?
No.
Can we take a little break? That'd be all right with you?
Imagine we can.
Too much
Somebody
Diet Coke
objects?
break.
Why?
I do not object.
We'll take a.
I know what I need a
5-minute
break. I have to go down the hallway.
recess.
Yeah.
I think I'll walk down there.
Don't forget if anybody likes to talk.
Loves his job. I like to hear the people that are in charge say how much they can do back. That's what makes popular about that. It's so insensitive. Shannon pointed that out to the class. They're so insensitive. It's like people just show up, teach the class, gone. Okay. Sure fosters it.
Great report.
Oh,
See ya. Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Take care. They're all old. I'll go. Yeah.
What's new, Forrest? Work. Seems like shouldn't have much to do. Fair.
Was telling Lance, I got a plaintiff's deposition tomorrow and a mediation in the same case next Wednesday. So my world either gets really
convene.
Anywhere there's live
Let me know
music.
you good to go, Matt. All right. And so we will move on to more board strategic discussion and McConnell. And Dr. Kroll, I'll turn that
Yeah.
over to you.
I've got Heather Rinkenbaugh on Zoom, I think, and I'm gonna, kind of just turn it over to Heather. She has some good information to share with you. We've talked about McConnell in the past, and I know that, you asked quite a while ago for a deeper dive into information and data, and Heather and her team have done that and want to present some information to you tonight and give you an opportunity to ask questions and see if there's more information that we need to provide. So Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you if you're there.
I am here. Thank you, Dr. Kroll.
Sure.
We do have several things to share with you this evening, but I want to start by introducing Jamie Baker, who is the Deputy Chief of Education and Training at McConnell. Jamie, thank you for being here. We just want to give her a few minutes to share about our partnership. As you know, we've been in partnership with McConnell for 46 years, a little bit about the current status on the base, and then also how we work together to support students. So I will turn it over to Jamie.
Good evening, everybody. So I've been at McConnell probably since 2004 myself, being prior military, and I've actually used Butler as an airman myself. The main thing I think that is important for airmen on base, just even living on base, is the accessibility to having classes that they can attend. Also, right after work, they can go right across base and go to class instead of having to travel off base when they're already tired. And then airmen that live in the dorms, they can walk to class, and some of them don't even have cars yet. So that's important for them. It's also important that we have a school that has the associate level classes because of the CCAF, which is the Community College of the Air Force degree. And so what that is, if you don't know already, is the associate's degree in their job. CCF has been accredited since the 1970s with this degree. A lot of airmen will start with Butler and then graduate to somewhere else with their 4-year degree, I being one of them. And then also they dual credit, so they can get a civilian associates with Butler, but they can also transfer those credits over to the CCF as well. And the CCF is very important to the Air Force because it allows them to get promoted later on. It's very important for master sergeants and above to get promoted and to see rank further on. So it's even if they have a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree, going back and fulfilling the CCF requirements is very important. It also is important for their dependents to have that accessibility too, either be their kids or their spouses. And I know that Butler offers some free credits, and that really helps their spouses get started with credits or their dependents as well, which is, I think, been important for our dependents. As far as the current status on base, let's see, we've been back since June of last year and everything's taken a hit. All the schools on base have taken a hit as far as classes go. Our briefings, like my briefings, have gone all online. I don't do any in-person briefings anymore. The ones that we do offer in person, not us, but like that I do attend, they're socially distanced. And our classrooms don't really allow for a large amount of people. So that's been a struggle just in general with our Airman Leadership School and just regular classes and briefings in general. We just got a DOD directive last week. If we're in our office and we want to have our mask off, we have to have our doors closed. And if we want it open, then we have to have our mask on the whole time. So it's, even having classes, everybody has to keep the mask on all the time. So a lot of people have gone to the online for right now, I think, until everything gets a little bit safer. So this whole struggle has been felt across the whole base in general. And as far as working together, I mean, having the associate level school on base really helps because of the affordability. Wichita State and Embry-Riddle use their full tuition rate, because I think Wichita State's around $228 per credit hour, a little bit over, and Embry-Riddle's at exactly $250. So they only get about 6 classes per fiscal year, where they get a lot more with Butler, and it really helps our students get further along as far as their CCF is concerned, or even just a general degree. And then also with our nursing commissioning program, a lot of their prerequisites they can do at Butler as well. So that's really helpful for them, and it's cheaper. So, and of course, they can get a lot more credits. There's 59 prerequisite hours for that as well. How we also work together is we do offer the classroom spaces. I think we have, I have to count, but we have probably about close to 20 classroom spaces on base. We share some of that with the schools, and then ALS uses some of that as well for their school, for Airman Leadership School. And they have about 3 classrooms that they take up for that. And then I'm also working on getting new equipment for all the classrooms, like tables with outlets for their computers and chairs as well. And then we also work together as education fairs when it's safe to do so. We've always had an education fair up until last year, and we're hoping to maybe look at doing an online option as well, but we'll see how that goes. And then I think it's this week. Yeah, this week we're doing a BX takeover, which is the on-base store. All the base schools are going over there, and they're going to kind of, be public and have accessibility to people that wouldn't have accessibility going through our office or our hallways. People walking by can ask questions, and it just kind of helps get the word out of what programs are offered on base or classes in general. I think that's it.
So thank you so much, Jamie.
Would that be a good time for any trustee to come this weekend and see what it's like out there at Mcconnell? I've never been out there.
You would have to be able to get on base. That's part of the issue.
And can you help out on that?
That's actually Friday from 10 to 2.
Excuse me?
That's Friday from 10 to 2. So it's during the day on Friday.
I can make it.
I could probably get a base pass worked out, but I could work that out.
Erica and I, our director, could work that out. We have the ability to sponsor people on, so.
Okay, I'd really appreciate it. If anyone else wants to go with me, I'll take the bus.
I was going to get with someone to see if I could get on base with them, but it sounds like I can't get on that way.
How many colleges, universities, tech schools are on Mcconnell, out there at Mcconnell?
So we have Butler, of course, and then we have Wichita State, and then we have Embry-Riddle. Embry-Riddle is based out of Florida.
Embry-Riddle?
Embry-Riddle. And they're more of an aeronautical school.
They're a flight school.
Yep.
And what was the CCF called? The Community College?
Of the Air Force.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So just 3 colleges.
Yeah, Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit about how why there aren't multiple institutions for the 2-year level, the 4-year, and then graduate?
Right. So we have to have an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding that we have to have with the schools to allow them on base. And you have to meet a certain number of students. And we did have Webster on campus or on base, but they've recently decided to leave base. So we did have 4 schools on base at one point. Butler was the associate level, Embry-Riddle and Wichita State were the bachelor level, and then Webster was the graduate level. And the reason we have those for accessibility, but also for counselors, it really helps the airmen to get that personalized experience. When they move, they don't really get to talk with their counselors too much if they're doing online schools or online degrees with like American Military University or Columbia Southern or whoever they're going through. It really does help for them to come over and see somebody in person, especially if they're having an issue. And like a lot of times, I'll send somebody to Kendall and then Kendall, or they'll come back from Kendall to me. And so there's a lot of back and forth, and just in a 15-minute time frame, and it works out really well because it keeps them in the class, or it helps move them to a class that they need.
Do you have any idea, I'm Trustee Winslow, do you have any idea how many or what percentage of the students that enroll at your facility out there on the base actually end up graduating, and whether or not you can tell me maybe if they graduate from Butler or other universities, or if that's even possible because they migrate so much.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard. It could be done. It would just be a lot of digging to get that information. And just like, with associate level schools, not everybody, stays there and graduates. They might move to a 4-year school to get that degree. The CCF itself, some people start at one school and then they'll end with another school.
Right, yeah. Degree. That's a pretty nice deal, though, that it all goes to that collected area.
Oh, yes.
That's like one of 5 questions that I had.
Trustee Winslow, we could provide that information. I mean, for Butler, if they graduated from Butler, we could get that information for you.
Well, I don't want her to go to any trouble. Let me see what the other answers are to these. About how many classes per semester, and these are actually on base, are going for Butler, just Butler, not others, but just Butler. About how many classes per semester? 1, 2, 3, 5.
Well, it depends on the semester, but I have an enrollment update that I'm going to share as part of my presentation.
Okay. She can't hear me.
Yeah.
Well, Heather's the one that has that information.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then you said there's 3 schools, used to be 4. So I got that one answered. Can any of these students that are actually enrolled in the Butler County classes, can they take those classes, the same classes online, and still get accredited with the CCF and so forth, and to other universities?
Yes.
Yes.
They can. Some students really prefer in-person classes. And then, some, when they deploy, will, pull to the online factor.
Right. But you do have a place where they can go, per se, with the equipment and take that class online where you have a computer and access.
We don't know. They would have to have their own laptop and home stuff.
Okay. So let's see. In your office at the base, about how many full-time and part-time do you have for a staff that is Butler County?
Oh, we have 1 counselor.
Including advisors.
I'm going to share that as part of my update as well. Yeah.
We have rotating staff, but so it's hard to keep, track of who's who.
That's all information that Heather has.
And I would maybe just ask in the future that, like, when we have something in the book like this, and then we're prepared and we get it handed the day of, it'd be nice to have it
I understand that.
emailed that day, and we could look at it beforehand and be a little more prepared on our.
I just want to let you know that Heather was working on this still last night to make sure that the numbers were accurate and the information was accurate. But we understand that. It's always easier to have.
Just hard to look and listen and do all of it at once.
Heather's going to go through her document with you kind of piece by piece, and Lori's going to help with that discussion as well. So we really wanted Jamie to be able to, to be here and just talk about the partnership and kind of her, her aspect of the things that she does for the Air Force at Mcconnell.
And she's a Butler employee.
No, she's not a Butler employee.
She's not a Butler employee.
No.
Okay.
No, she serves all of the colleges and in her role and responsibility.
So she's civil.
You'll have to ask her. She's retired, I think she said, right?
Yes, I'm medically retired, but I'm also a civil servant. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out whether you were, what college or, anyway, that's good that you're there. I'm sure that's good.
Heather, if you want to go ahead and go through your presentation, I'm sure that'll help answer some questions as well. So
absolutely. Well, thank you, Jamie, for joining us. We appreciate you and all of our partners at Mcconnell.
No problem.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we dive into the packet that you have in front of you, I wanted to note that when we shared this information with you in August, we shared FY19 data. So that was the most recent and updated information we had. And so now that we're presenting to you today, we're going to look at FY20 data. So if you put those 2 documents side by side, the numbers aren't the same, different fiscal years. So I just wanted to lead with that. We did have an increase in enrollment in FY20, so we have more revenue. That is a difference that you'll note. And then one thing we've done differently for you tonight is that we have broken out all of the expenses and we've separated Mcconnell and the service center. So in separating those and listing out all those individual expenses for personnel, we did notice that we had some errors in the way that we charge things and the way things are coded. So those things have been corrected, and I'm going to walk you through the entire packet. So starting right at the top with the,
It's right underneath your phone, Julie.
starting with the enrollment revenue, that is noted first, $466,190 in student revenue and state aid. And then underneath that, you'll see those expenditures all broken out by Mcconnell and the service center. So I want to start with the non-instructional personnel first, because Lori's going to talk about instructional personnel. So if we start with the administrative personnel at Mcconnell and the service center, we have, well, at the time, we had 3 full-time and 3 part-time employees. Our full-time director is officed on base and primarily works on base. And then our full-time office manager and evening coordinator, and then our part-time enrollment staff all float between the service center and Mcconnell.
Heather, can I interrupt just a second? That's on the back side. That's on the second page of your packet, folks. If you flip the page, you'll see the staffing.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there quite yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump again.
So-
I thought that's what you were
okay.
talking about.
So how do we tell again how many people are administrative and instructional?
I'm going to get there in just a second. I was
I'm sorry.
about
I jumped
to dive
again
into
for
that.
Heather. I jumped again.
So again, I've noted, if you do want to look at page 2, that's fine. It just also has the advising personnel listed there as well. So again, we've got, at the time, we had 3 full-time, 3 part-time. One of those part-time positions is primarily on base. The other positions all float back and forth. We did reduce our staffing at Mcconnell by 1 part-time position. So we now currently have 3 full-time and 2 part-time. So
Heather, how can I tell who's part-time? The advisors?
No, I'm going to get there in just a second. So if you look at page 2, which has that breakout, there's a table that lists how many staff are there. The administrative or anything not listed as advisor. So all the positions I just listed are 3 full-time, which is a director, our office manager, and then our evening coordinator. Those are the 3 full-time. And then we had 3 part-time. Now we only have 2 that are enrollment staff that help us at the service center and Mcconnell.
I'm counting 5.
At the time,
I'm counting 5 part-time.
Are you saying two of these just work at the enrollment center on Rock and not
Don't
at
count them.
Mcconnell?
Count the advisors.
I got it. Don't count the advisors.
right.
Okay.
This is administrative personnel only. So you're looking at anything not listed as advisor. So we do have some part-time advisors.
Got
So
it. Thank you.
Sure. As you look at that breakdown on page 2, all but that full-time director are split half and half between the service center and Mcconnell because they serve at both locations. So moving into the advising personnel, that consists of 1 full-time advisor and 3 part-time advisors. The 1 part-time advisor is 100% of the time at Mcconnell, and then the other 3 are at the service center. So keep in mind that we shared with you in August, our service center serves far more than just Mcconnell students. They helped generate over $2 million in revenue just in tuition and fees by serving students at the service center. But all of these advisors also work to enroll students, help them get enrolled online. They've taken phone appointments. and then also any walk-ins that come in. So it's not just for McConnell students.
So Heather, on your enrollment assistance, there's no enrollment assistance at McConnell. So does that mean that the advisor, the director, and the registration all handle that?
So they are primarily, they split half and half.
Okay.
It says 50/50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead, Heather.
Okay, so our non-personnel expenses, there aren't very many at McConnell. Those are primarily office supplies, printers, those sort of things, office type equipment. Then if you look at the service center expenses, that's primarily our lease and utility costs. We do not have a lease at McConnell. So that breaks down the expenditures. And so now as you look at the instructional personnel line item, that is going to be our faculty, the faculty that are teaching on base. That number compared to the credit hours may look high. And we talked in August about multiple site pay as part of our master agreement. And so I'm going to turn that over to Lori to share with you in more detail about that.
What is our lease agreement at the Butler Service Center? How much is it?
I have that here. I believe it is $21,660.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Lori.
Okay, so in your packet, you should have a page that has Instructor A. I have an example I want to walk you through to explain how faculty salaries are charged to McConnell. Currently, our master agreement has language in it that speaks to how faculty are assigned their base load as well as multiple site pay. So the example that you have in front of me, or in front of you, you will see in the fall semester in this example that the instructor is teaching 5 sections, sections A, B, C, D, and E. And the section that's located at BOM is Butler of McConnell. That particular section is a 5 credit hour course. All faculty have a 30 credit hour base assignment for the year. Typically, we split that 15 in the fall, 15 in the spring. So when you look at the fall base assignment column, those credit hours identified there add up to 15 credit hours, and that is their base salary. The multiple site pay must be assigned to sections where they have they teach at another site. In this example, for the fall semester, the primary site would be El Dorado, that's the BOE, and the multiple site pay has to be attached to the McConnell section and the Butler of Andover section. That multiple site pay then forces those 2 courses to be part of their base assignment, because we do not assign multiple site pay to overload. That they do not get that on any overload. And in this example, 1 credit hour of the last course is part of their base assignment at El Dorado, which leaves them with 2 hours of overload assigned in the overload column. Then you look at the spring semester. This was the same instructor, and they are not teaching at McConnell. They have their assignment spread between El Dorado and Andover. Again, the base assignment column adds to 15 hours. That's their base assignment. And 3 of those sections would have multiple site pay, where the last 3 sections, which happen to be 1 credit hour courses, are assigned as overload. In the notes below, the annual base assignment is 30 credit hours, and the split of the salary looks at only those 30 credit hours. So for the year, The instructor had 16 teaching credit hours at El Dorado, which is 53% of their base salary, or $31,800. At Andover, they had 9 credit hours in their base assignment, which is 30% of their teaching assignment. And then the Mcconnell section was 5 credit hours, or 17% of their base assignment. The way the language works, that Mcconnell section has to be part of the base assignment. It is, in this example, it would never, ever fall into the overload category. And that, in essence, increases the cost of instruction when a full-timer teaches there. We do not have any full-time faculty assigned to teach 100% at Mcconnell. Currently, about 20% of the credit hours taught by full-time faculty are taught at Mcconnell are taught by full-time faculty. Last academic year, we had a total of 269 teaching credit hours, where 56 of those were taught by full-time faculty.
If I could interrupt you just for a second, before I lose track of what my thoughts were about 10 minutes ago, I'm wanting to know how many classes per semester we've been teaching at Mcconnell. I understand that there's a multi-tiered pay schedule or pay classifications for teachers. I get that. But what I want to know is basic information. How many classes are we now teaching at Mcconnell per semester? How many did we teach last year? How many did we teach the year before? That would be wonderful to understand exactly how many classes that we are teaching at Mcconnell and how many students are attending those classes at Mcconnell. Those are actually the most important numbers that I can look for right now. And so far, I haven't seen any of that, but I'm sure they're buried in here.
Well, if you look at the 269 credit hours, teaching credit hours in my notes there, not all sections are going to be 3 credit hours, but if you divide that by 3 credit hours, which is the typical credit hours of a course, that comes out to 89 sections, 90 if you round it off.
But I just want the number of classes. I really don't, honestly, to me, it's about the meetings that are there. It's not as much about if it's 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, or 5 hours. It's more about how many classes are meeting at Mcconnell on the base and how many students are in those classes.
We can give you
I think that's what she's saying. There's about 90 classes.
There are about
90 classes per semester.
90 sections. You might have multiple sections of speech. You might have 5 sections of speech.
But that's for the whole year, correct?
That is for the entire year.
So maybe 45 per semester, more or less.
Approximately.
Yeah, your summer semester is going to be smaller. That's just how it works in higher education. But on page 4 of that packet, it lists out the credit hours for the last 2 years.
And we can get the number of sections that were in each semester. I don't have that with me, but I'm just using the 269 teaching hours. If you divide that by 3, which is the typical credit hours.
Number of credit hours, yes.
90 sections. It's probably a little bit less than that, given that there's some 5-hour courses offered at Mcconnell.
Lori, when did we start multiple site pay?
Probably 50 years ago, or
really
to it. That was in the master agreement when I started at Butler in 1992. We have not increased the rate of a multiple site pay since I started in 1992. But the way the master agreement is written, multiple site pay only applies to the base 15 hours. If it never applies to all of it, but it's within that assignment, it has to be part of the base assignment.
Is that to help out with gas, travel, things like that?
Well, when faculty teach at another location, they oftentimes have to take all their materials with them. They have, if they're teaching a lab class, they have to get there earlier to set up labs because they're not at their home campus where their office is. So the way it was explained to me years ago, it was designed to help offset some of that extra planning and that preparation work that goes into being at another location where, you know, if you forget something, you can't run down the hall and grab it out of your office.
Is this available for adjunct instructors?
No, it is not.
That's a shame.
It's not covered by the contract.
No,
Lori,
they're not part of our master agreement.
It's hard.
Lori, going back to your example, you're using the salary splits for the 3 locations are based off the $60,000 annual salary. Does that incorporate multiple site pay for the hours that are taught? Or so is that then, in terms of what's charged to Butler of McConnell, is there an additional charge beyond the 10-2 to account for the multiple site pay that's being paid to the faculty that's teaching that class?
Yes, they have the base portion of their salary, which is the $10,200, and then they get $125 per credit hour. In this example, that means that they would get $625 additional dollars on that 5 credit hour course. That's 5 times 125.
As a supplemental salary.
Yes, it's not really supplemental. It's just a multiple site pay factor that is applied to that section.
Right.
So Lori, count me on McConnell. Do we use more than, say, 1 classroom at a time out there?
Yes, we do.
How many classrooms normally do we use at a time?
I would have to look at the schedule. Hold on.
Oh, you can just give me a ballpark. 3, 4, 5.
I don't have that memorized. I've got a room check here. Let me look real quick.
Okay.
And I had a question for Heather on how are we setting now at our spring 2021 enrollment at McConnell? I know we're down 50% in the fall. Where are we currently setting?
I did not put those numbers in because everything else is 20th day numbers. That's our official report. So the day 1 numbers I could not access yet. So I can get that information for you. We are down. COVID has hit us really hard this fall and spring. So I will get that information for you.
Okay. And what you gave us in August or September, I don't recall what month it was. It had a total revenue of $365,000 and total expenses of $567,000. So we had a loss of about 200 is what we were told. How does that compare to the 2020 numbers where we're pretty much breaking even at, you know, $7,000 loss? And it seems like there's more taken out of the Rock Road centers in 2020 than there was on your 2019 numbers.
Yes, that's the error in coding that we caught. By breaking out the expenses for you, we recognized that 100% of our advisors were being charged to McConnell when we only have 1 advisor on base. It would be impossible for the service center to generate $2 million in revenue with no advisors there. So we made that adjustment. And so that's why you're seeing the increased expense at the service center and decreased at McConnell.
So then how do you explain the 2019 numbers? I guess I'm just not following. You have at the bottom, there was a line item of total expensive service center, $104,000 salaries and lease. Are you saying
Correct.
it was actually more than that, just wasn't included? Or are these
Correct.
numbers?
So when we looked at when we pulled this information for you tonight, we looked at FY20 because we wanted to give you the most recent information. And then looking at that, realized that all of those advisors had been charged to McConnell. Their salaries had been coded as McConnell instead of service center.
So are you saying
So that
the entire 321,000 at the service center now is only relating to people at the service center only, and enrollment has nothing to do with McConnell, or is that, can you explain that?
I'm saying, sure. So what we had was all those advisors were being charged to McConnell. So what it looked like when we had the conversation, the numbers were different because our enrollment was different. When we had the conversation in August, Forrest mentioned, looks like there's, $500,000 here. What is that being charged to? That's why we brought this information to you tonight. So with those advisors, the service center is not ever going to bring in any revenue. There's no classes offered there. It is an enrollment center.
Do we have opportunity for classes there?
We cannot, because we would have to get permission from Wichita State and WSU Tech to offer anything in the service center. It is an enrollment center. So we cannot offer anything there, but we do enroll a lot of students there. We also do placement testing there. That revenue is not accounted for because it goes into the placement testing budget.
Okay. I guess my question more precisely would be the 321,000 is only expenditures that only happen at the South Rock Road location. It's not any income or any expenses for teachers that are on Mcconnell or any wages for teachers. This is only advisory positions that physically take place on South Rock Road itself only.
That is correct, with the exception of those staff float back and forth. So that chart I gave you that breaks those staff members out 50-50, half of their salary you see in the administrative personnel cost and for Mcconnell, and the other half you see at the service center because they work at both locations. So that would be the only difference. Some of those people are going onto base and working. We just don't have additional personnel. We are splitting their time to help at both locations.
Okay, so your total expenses of 472,965. Part of the 321 is in that, but not all of it.
None of it's
separated.
No, those are completely separate. What I'm saying is the administrative personnel costs, that line for Mcconnell and the line for the service center, those could be the same people. We have several positions where half their salary is charged to one location and half is charged to the other because they work at both.
You just reclassified. You just reclassified their salaries according to where they work when it wasn't done that way originally.
Correct. Which we always looked at the service center and Mcconnell together. So in bringing this information to you, it helped us correct some errors on our end.
Are you seeing more and more students enroll online than going through an advisor?
I would have to look at the traffic reports to know that. I can get that information for you. Right now, we've had a lot of students that are enrolling over the phone. Jessica may be able to speak to some of that too. Because again, these advisors are not just enrolling Mcconnell students. They're taking phone appointments from students all over and releasing students to enroll online.
Yeah,
I don't have any specific data to share today, but that is accurate.
All of our advisors serve, kind of multifunctional roles. It's not just walk-in appointments, but they're making phone calls and they're, doing online releases to enroll and stuff like that. So it's pretty typical of all the advisors.
And Jessica did share in December when she was sharing those national numbers about what is recommended of institutions of our size. And we've got 480 students per one full-time advisor. And the recommendation for our institution is 300. So it takes every single advisor we have to serve our students. So before we've already taken some questions. Before we open it up for more, if you look at page 4, those enrollment numbers, I wanted to share those with you because if you look at the last 2 semesters, this is before COVID hit, we were seeing growth. We had 176 credit hours above where we were in spring 19. We had that in spring 20. And then in summer 20, we had 116 more credit hours than we did the summer of 19. So we were headed.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I just had a question. You attribute any of that growth to the fact that we did give away some tuition bonuses in 2020?
I'm not sure I give away what bonuses. What are you referring to?
Tuition incentives in
We have
2020.
to take the 6, get 3 free or something
Yes.
last year.
No, that was during the summer.
Yeah.
That was for fall, wasn't it? Wasn't it summer
fall.
plus? If you take classes in the summer, you can. So I don't know that for sure. I won't say no, But the spring, obviously not, because that wasn't available. It
Are we
was the
going to
summer.
do that this year as well? You think this year? Will we be offering that same bonus?
I couldn't answer that question. I would have to, Dr. Kroll or.
We haven't talked about
So we do attribute a portion of this enrollment growth to the fact that we've got good partnerships on base. We have new leadership on base that's helping us identify new ways to market. As we shared in August, we did have limited availability to market until we got some new leadership on base. And so we've got increased opportunities like what Jamie mentioned at the BX. We are setting up tables in the Chow Hall. To any opportunity that our director has to get out and market, she's taking those opportunities. She's very well connected on the base. Her husband is retired Air Force, so she knows people on the base very well. So I attribute some of that enrollment growth to the fact that we are able to market a little bit more, and we're making connections on base. And I think what we've learned through COVID is going to help us as well, because we know that we can do things remotely. We can connect classrooms together. We've done that a little bit on base. We've been given permission to do that a little bit more to try to help our classes. So before COVID hit, we were on the right track, headed in the right direction. And if you look at the budget shortfall, that just shy of $7,000 at Mcconnell, that would take 25 credit hours to make up that almost $7,000. And that's very feasible for us over the course of an academic year.
when you say you're getting help, I know that leadership at different bases and so forth can affect generally a lot of outcomes in different directions depending on who's in charge. What would you say is their main assistance in helping Butler? Or is it all colleges that they're trying to assist?
It does have to be all colleges. Because of the MOU, everything has to be equal. If Butler gets an opportunity to promote, then every institution on the base. The difference with the base is that we are not competing. We're not offering the same classes. They don't allow that. So if we offer something on base, those other institutions do not offer those classes. So Butler is the 2-year opportunity on base. Wichita State is the 4-year. We don't offer the same classes. And then Embry-Riddle is aeronautical focus. So,
Julie, to answer your earlier question, there are 9 different classrooms that we have access to that we can schedule. Last fall on Census Day, which would have included first 8 weeks and some 16-week classes, we had 25 sections running at that time. That does not include second 8-week classes that would have started after the 20th day. It has its own 20th day later in the semester. So those classes are spread throughout the day and into the evening. Some start in the morning, some run over the lunch hour, some are right after lunch, and then there's a 4:30 block and a 7:30 block. So it just depends on the time of day, what classes actually make. And we share our classrooms with Wichita State, so they're not ours exclusively. And we also share those classrooms with other functions on base. I'm former military, and my husband is retired military. So I used to teach Sunday school out at the base, and we used those classrooms on Sunday for Sunday school for the kids. So they're not our classrooms exclusively. We have to share them. And for example, there is one science lab, so all of the sciences will use that one science lab, regardless of whether it's biology, chemistry, whatever.
So in the classroom live at Mcconnell, the students in there that are live are Air Force, are they not?
They are Air Force.
They're from the base.
They are dependents, but we also, if a civilian passes the background check, there can be civilians in those classes as well.
How hard is that? How many civilians do you have in those classes? About 1 or 2%, or 5 or 6?
It's going to depend
Trying
on.
to get a good idea. I've heard so many people tell me it's so hard to get anything on base or go on base for anything.
It
They
is.
just quit trying to get on. So
I will,
having had a secret
with our
clearance for
staff,
years. Sorry.
With our staff on base and at the service, excellent job of walking students through that process of getting through the background check. And so that's something we've talked about as well to help increase our enrollment, that we need to get some information out that shows students we are here to help you get on base, and it's not as difficult. I mean, if you pass the background check, our staff walks them through all that paperwork that they need and helps them get through that process.
Okay, but I guess I'm still interested in knowing about how many of those students are military or spouse or whatever, military relative, and how many are civilian. And if you offer those classes as well to students via Zoom, online, so forth and so on, so that we might even think about remaining at Mcconnell. Are we allowed to do that, or do they prohibit that because it is on base? Or
So we can Zoom. They have given us permission to do that. We have to have classes on base though. That's part of the MOU. If we do not, because essentially you would turn Mcconnell into an enrollment center if you had no classes there. And we are there primarily to serve the Air Force. So we do have students that take those classes. We have had some civilians. I will get that breakdown for you. I've got it written down here. But we have to have classes in person there. We could Zoom out, but online we have to be careful with, because we would have to make sure that we're upholding our end of the MOU.
Heather, I assume we don't offer any, let me just ask it as a question. Do we offer any class at Mcconnell that isn't also offered at one of our other campuses or online? I guess, are there any exclusively Mcconnell only classes where if someone wanted to take it, they would have to go through the background check process if they weren't already badged onto post?
No, everything we offer at Mcconnell, we offer at another location.
would you say that our student ratio, can you give me a percent of what McConnell student ratio is? Numbers of students or even number of hours. I don't even know if I care which one, but like it's 10% or 100% or 50%, as well as our students being 10% or 70%, so forth.
Heather, do you know that percentage?
Percentage of students on base as compared to the entire student population, or what exactly are you wanting?
Well, I'm just looking at a way to compare, if those students didn't have those classes on base anymore, how many students are in there? How many civilians actually are coming there? How many are available in other venues? How many we would lose if we restricted it, and so forth and so on, things like that. Just trying to get an understanding of exactly how viable. I understand it's viable to the Air Force, of course, but I'm trying to understand what the ratio is. If we have 100,000 students enrolled in Butler County total, or in all the facilities that we have, including Marion and all these other outlying facilities, what percentage of our enrollment total in not only hours, but in students, does Mcconnell classrooms make up?
I do not have that information tonight, but I would be glad to get it. I do know from our director that we have more civilians on base than we do Air Force people right now. And I will get that breakdown for you.
Yeah, do you have any gut feelings that it might be, I mean, I'm not trying to pick on spot, please don't think that. But you think maybe it's as much as 75% civilian and 25% base?
I don't know. I don't want to give I don't have a gut feeling about it. I want to make sure that I'm giving you accurate information. So
and how long did you tell me Butler has been out there?
This is 46 years.
46 years. Okay.
Heather, can you also help me understand as well? There's a requirement for the airmen that they have to be a certain distance or a certain time frame away from their duty stations. Is that correct? And so that can limit their ability to, I mean, it would be easy to think, well, if they're taking if the same classes are offered, for instance, in Andover, someplace else, why don't they just go to Andover, or why don't they, go to one of the other locations? But specifically, I think for the enlisted folks, they have to stay within a certain, if they're on duty, they have to stay within a certain distance. Is that right, Lori or Heather?
Yes, they have to. I mean, they have to be able to respond in a timely manner. They have to be
and that's
a certain.
exactly why I asked the question. Is there any kind of area that they can go to take their Zoom classes if they elected to take something different that's not offered that they can do, or do they just have to have their own laptop and wherever they are sit down and have access? I assume that the base does have internet access available.
The base doesn't provide a Zoom room or anything that they can go use. As Jamie referenced, the student has to have their own laptop, even when they're taking an online class. And
or even in your class, they would have to have their own. Even in the face-to-face classes, they still have to have their own laptop. So,
yeah. And the Air Force probably isn't going to let them work on their classwork on an Air Force computer. Having been in the Air Force myself,
probably not.
We had very strict rules on what we could use the Air Force computers for.
And Heather, could you get me those spring enrollment numbers? You're just saying it as of February 9th, we don't know the spring enrollment on Mcconnell?
It's not that we don't know it, but everything else that I've provided for you tonight, we use official numbers, which is 20th day. And I don't have those numbers yet. So I will get you.
20th day yet. Well, I know we're not at the 20th day, but
well, what is it currently though?
That's why I will get that information for you. I just didn't put it on the chart.
I'm just asking you specifically that you do not have that on hand and could not tell me.
No, I don't have that.
You don't know what our enrollment currently is or was at the start of the semester?
I can look.
But I know you guys have it.
Well, we do. It's just that
I'm
those
just
official
curious.
numbers are reported.
It's not going to change
state.
a lot in a couple days.
The official numbers are reported to the state, and we want to make sure. I mean, this is being live streamed, and so the public. We want to make sure that the information that's put out to the public is accurate. And so, if we're reporting enrollments, we want to make sure that they're accurate for sure. Because there's
I'm also presenting information from FY20. And so the numbers for right now aren't factored in. So when I was preparing this, I was preparing based on budget. So I am glad to get you that information. I could get it for you shortly.
I'd like that as well.
Not get it for all the trustees.
Yeah, not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but that would be really interesting. And also what we had maybe last year at this time versus the 20th deadline coming up, and what the difference was, whether it was 5%, 10%, or whether
they probably only have count day information on record.
I mean, if we're coming back to this in a month, we're going to know the 20th day number exactly.
They probably only have count day on record. That's the way the public schools work.
I've never experienced, and look, this is just because I've been in business. I've never been at a business entity where I couldn't go, what's my current whatever number, and get that in an instant because I was connected to a database that contained all that cumulative information. So it surprises me that we don't have a day-to-day total and that no one's watching.
They probably, they likely do.
They are watching,
yeah,
Julie. That's
they likely do. They're just, they only keep track of what they get paid on because state aid's based upon count day.
I see. Give Heather a chance to get those numbers for you.
When we might, just an example, we have 100 kids when we start school August 15th in Augusta, but September 20th count day is what state aid is based upon.
Right.
So what we have August 15th is immaterial. It's only who we have enrolled on September 20th.
No, but I'll bet you your superintendent or your school principal
takes those numbers Yeah, but they're mostly meaningless, but you're right.
and see what the difference is,
But
just for planning.
that's all my point was. I was asking specifically for that number and I'm being told I can't have it. So
No,
later.
you're not being told you
It's
can't.
372 credit hours and 75 students for spring.
That's all I
She
wanted.
just wanted some time to get
I
the numbers.
Fine, we're good, we're good.
I just know we were down 50% last semester and I was curious how we're setting currently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather.
And maybe there'll be more by count day, we hope.
When is the 20th day?
Kind of late to jump on the wagon.
February
Like 12.
What's the 20th day, you guys?
372.
Did
I
it
missed
move
the
this year
total
because we
credit.
started later?
It's been
Total.
It's different because we started. So it's going to be different for every institution. Depending on when it started.
So it's literally the 20th calendar day after.
20th
started.
class
20th
day.
class day.
Oh, class day.
You could theoretically get dropped. I'm sure.
No, we do. And we get ads as
So,
well.
20th class day. On the 19th day. So the 19th is.
And I think I had asked last year, Heather, that if Butler did step away, there would be another college that would step in and take over the community college, most likely.
I mean, that wouldn't be up to us. That would be up to McConnell.
Heather, should that happen, what of the expenses that we have there now, as far as the personnel and the enrollment center, what, I think my understanding is a lot of those expenses, those professors and advisors would still be, they may be working at a different aspect of the college, but still teach it. Those expenses don't go away. Is that correct? We just lose the revenue.
Correct. There may be a little bit of budget savings, but again, when the service center, those advisors are enrolling all kinds of students. And if we were to eliminate those positions, I don't know how our advisors would keep up with that enrollment.
Now you're talking about advisors on Rock Road or the advisors on base?
Both. They are serving all students. Our advisor that's on base, if he's not helping a student out on the base, he's working with students who want to enroll online. He's working phone appointments. So all of our advisors are serving all Butler students. Additionally, a lot of those full-time faculty that Lori mentioned, they are going to be teaching for us somewhere else. So that would not be a savings for us either.
Thank
you. Mm-hmm.
Heather, talk a little bit also about what the Higher Learning Commission expectations are for those students and because they're in degree programs at McConnell. If the decision would be at some point in time to walk away from McConnell, we still have a significant commitment to the Higher Learning Commission for those students, correct?
Yes, we would have to teach that program out. That would also be a requirement of our MOU. If we have students, that it is part of our agreement with the Department of Defense that if those students are taking classes on base, then we have an obligation to finish what we started with them. And Lori, you could speak to the Higher Learning Commission stuff as well.
Is that something that MOU, is that renewed every year?
It is not. It was just signed, I believe, a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago, and I believe it is a 5-year agreement.
Are they required to physically be on base to be taught and not come to Andover?
Yes, yes, we are required to be on base.
We would have to, Higher Learning Commission would expect a teach out plan. And oftentimes it's a 2-year plan to get them through their degree or relatively through their degree. And they require that you not make a substantial change in how they have to finish out those classes. And so very strong likelihood that we would have to still maintain those classes at McConnell and be there and teach them because that's where they're doing their degree program.
So are all of our staff members on Rock Road, are they allowed to go on base at any time?
All of the staff members that work there are allowed to go during work hours. We cannot use our base passes beyond use for Butler. So we couldn't I can't go to base. I have a base pass, but I have to go within the work hours that the base has established for me.
Okay, you say all of our classes are taught during the day or some of them at night?
Some of them are in at night. So when a person fills out the information, they receive a base pass. On the back of the base pass, it tells them what time they have to be off base, and they take into account our course times.
I guess my only final question is maybe sometime in the next month, if you could do a similar breakdown of this current semester as you did the last year, just so we have this year's numbers as well to compare. I know it won't include the summer, it hasn't happened yet. But just so we have at least something similar to look at.
Okay.
Last year, did you say? Just last year?
No, this current
Current year?
spring.
Okay.
Any other questions for Heather or Lori?
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
We'll go ahead and move on to the next topic for discussion, which is room and board meal plans. And Heather, I believe you're up for that as well.
Nope.
Or no?
Thank Bill.
No, it's not Heather. It's, we have a group of people, facilities management, residence life staff, the accounting office. We get together and monitor our budgets for the residence halls, which is a separate entity or separate budget than the general fund, but we look at that on an annual basis. Our goal is to break even with our residence halls and with the food service. And so basically the food service cost is a pass-through, but what we're recommending for this coming year for fall or FY22 is basically a 3.9% meal plan increase, which is a pass-through from Great Western Campus Dining, and then an increase in our room rates at 2%, which the overall increase then would be at 2.6%, which would put our residence hall rates for room and board at $54.65 for West Hall, $65.85 for Cummins and East Hall, and $68.95 for the apartments. And I can talk to you a little bit about the meal plan is 19 meals a week. That's 3 meals a day during the week, brunch and dinner on the weekends. West Hall is the oldest residence hall we have with community showers. The Cummins and East have suite arrangements throughout the residence hall. There are some 3-person rooms that have a 1 bathroom, so you have 3 people sharing a bath in those specific rooms. The apartments have full-blown kitchens, refrigerator, stove, microwave, and so students that live in the apartments, some of them purchase the meal plan, most of them do not. They cook their own meals in the apartments. This past year, we've left 2 of the apartments vacant intentionally for COVID purposes. If we have a student that tests positive for COVID, they are isolated in one of the apartments, and we keep them there until they either come through that quarantine period of 10 days without any more symptoms. And so we isolate that to prevent the spread of COVID. But typically we have 32 beds in the apartments. But anyway, that's our recommendations going forward. We have fire science beds up at the fire science hall. And we're recommending that those increase by 2% as well. Those students do not have kitchenettes there. And so if they want a meal plan, they can purchase it, but we don't force them to do that because of their location. But you can see our recommendation there is to offer it for $950 for fall and spring, and then $680 for summer. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. The other information we have there shows you what our rates have done since 95, 96, and then what the rates are of other community colleges and, well, what Wichita State offers. We're competitive. Obviously, we're a lot cheaper than the 4-year schools. We're about on the high end for most community colleges. But I really believe our residence halls, especially East and Cummins, are pretty classy. Our facilities people do a great job of maintaining those and keeping them up to date as best we can. Those rates include internet access throughout, wireless internet access. Thanks to Bill Young, we used to outsource our cable and internet, and that was weak at best. And so we've taken that back in-house for the internet access, and we got rid of cable TV with no complaints. Students don't watch cable TV anymore. They live stream or stream all of their shows. And so, like I said, we've gone to just internet access. We don't have cable. We do have cable available in the lounge areas if students want to come in there and watch network TV or ESPN. We didn't have a Super Bowl party this year, obviously, because of social distancing, but we've held Super Bowl parties and things like that in the past with the big screen TVs in the lounge areas, but we didn't do that this year. But that's basically my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions. We're not asking you to approve this tonight, just wanted to get it out in front of you. We'll ask you to approve that in March at the March board meeting.
So Bill, tell me, I want to live at the fire station for $950 versus $65.85.
You have to be admitted to the fire. You have to be actively engaged in the fire science program, and then it's a selection process.
So you could be the house mother. You could be the house
mother. How many beds are there? House mother?
You could be the house mother.
There are 8 beds at the firehouse.
Bunk beds.
Is there a pole to go down the pole when there's a fire?
No, not that I know of. I've not been in that
there is not.
There's no
facility, but no.
They take it out of all.
Well, isn't that interesting? 7 beds there. And it's $950.
That's per semester,
But $65.85 per semester for the other.
which includes food.
But it's exclusive to the fire science program.
The
Do you have
$65.85 includes the meal plan. which
I know,
the
it's a
firehouse
heck of a
does,
deal.
But the fire science does.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
You have to go to a fire.
I understand. Is there a line waiting to get into this?
We're typically full, but I wouldn't say we have a line of. We don't have a waiting list to get in it.
Is it community showers, community laundry, all that there?
Might have to dig into that a little bit more too, because I'm not in there, Mary Martha, so I can't really. I've not really looked at that facility since it was built, to be honest with you.
I was there for the open house many years ago, but I'm going to stop by. They'll let me in, won't they?
Sure.
I'd like to see what happens. I mean, what the setup is. Thank you, Bill.
You're
Moving
welcome.
on.
Any other questions for Bill?
Yeah, where is that located? I might want to stop by too.
It's on 6th Street and at the firehouse number 1.
Metcalf? No.
Yeah, 6th and Metcalf, I believe, or Village. It's
Village.
So it
All
is at a fire station.
Yes.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Our sign's located outside on. It's got the Butler County Fire Department sign on one end and the Butler signs on the other.
Oh, it's not a city. It's not a city department.
It's
Yeah.
the city.
It's an operating fire station.
Yeah.
Right, but there's a difference between El Dorado City
Oh, it's
and
still-
it's
no,
El
it's-
Dorado. It's a
It's El
partnership.
Dorado City.
You guys just want to go look at the young firefighters. Driving on, let's go.
So
I
let
see
me
him at the
just
Y every
loop
morning.
back around. If you would like to go to see that, let me know. Let
Okay.
me know if you want to go so I can give them a call and let them know when you might be stopping and would like to have a tour and look around rather than just show up. I think it's important to
Sure.
to let me
Absolutely.
give them a heads up.
What was I going to say? So now the city owns 3/4 of the building and we own 1/4,
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look and see.
but it's
It was
a
a
partnership
partnership,
with the
yeah.
city.
It's a partnership with the city.
Have to go back.
Any
and look at
other
that.
questions relating to the meal plan or the residence hall?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
I do. Bill, would you find that out for me, please? I'd just like to know do we pay them rent? Who owns the building?
Kim can get that
I'll
information.
get that for you.
Okay.
I'll go back and look at the original agreement between the city and Butler. We helped build that building, if I
Right.
understand correctly, but I'll have Kent and I can pull that information out.
Okay. And Kent left a message on the chat room that said that agreement
1990.
was around 1990.
It was
The pay, the
Yeah,
multiple site pay.
That's the multiple site pay.
Yeah, that was multiple site pay.
Mm-hmm.
31.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill.
You're welcome.
I just had one question. Is the El Dorado the only place that they have in department grades like this? They're the only fire department that sponsors the students.
We're the only.
Yes.
Yeah, we're the only fire science program in Kansas that has a residential program.
Right. I
Right.
just wondered if any of those residences included Butler County versus just El Dorado or any of them.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, there's a big difference between El Dorado Fire and Butler. So I just.
This is
wondered-
El Dorado Fire
Right.
Department.
Is there any other fire departments that aid and assist Butler County? The fire science program?
Oh, our fire science students, once they finish firefighter 1, they can ride with the fire departments. I think they primarily ride with El Dorado Fire Department. And many of the folks that are employed now through the fire department have come through the Butler program. And so I can check and see, there might be some of our other graduates that are, that are doing Butler County or other fire departments while they're in school, but I think primarily they work with El Dorado Fire Department because they're right there, housed in the same building.
It's a great program.
I can see if I can find that information for you.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm just interested to know if there's any other fire programs or departments that are involved other than just El Dorado.
Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you, Bill. So we'll move on to the next topic, trustee code of conduct. One of the things that we wanted to visit a little bit about is just the part of the article in the Sentinel and some of how the college was portrayed, I think, from that article. Also want to speak a little bit to electronic communication and some of those things, but specifically really as it relates to HLC and the potential impact of those things. I'm going to let you speak to that a little bit. And
Are you on
I think
page
it's good for us
22?
to have some conversation in regards to
21. Yeah, there just are some continuing concerns in some areas about communication and, making sure we follow proper protocols and code of conduct. Higher Learning Commission is really specific in their criterion on governance about following communication chains of command and stuff. And it's difficult for us as a college or with the Higher Learning Commission, it's difficult at times when, for instance, trustees are communicating with people outside of me knowing or my office knowing, first of all, to make contact or to make, that first introduction. The information that when the Sentinel contacted you guys and you shared information with them, there's some concern among the trustees that wasn't absolutely accurate information. It didn't portray the college, I guess, in the right way. Part of the code of conduct, and I think I had Laura make copies. I think she's got copies of those if they're not handy for you. But part of the code of conduct talks to the trustees working together as a group, communicating as a group, supporting each other. Decisions that are made as part of the trustees, when the final decision is made, then that's the decision that gets shared publicly. Thank you. And I think there are just some concerns that need to be addressed related to, how people are working together or not working together. And those are HLC concerns when it comes to governance issues. I have a responsibility to continue to talk to Tom Bordenkircher, who is our liaison. I've shared with him the updates in the board policies that you've all worked on and passed, so he's aware that we've done that. But I think that, the conversation with him last summer was pretty specific in him saying that we got to work together as a group. We got to support each other and communicate each other and have to understand the roles and responsibilities that you have as trustees. Even though you're elected, individually elected, you have a responsibility to the board to follow the code of conduct and do things in an ethical way. And if that doesn't happen, then the Higher Learning Commission gets involved. I can tell you from experience and personal colleagues, I know of colleges that have been in significant trouble with the Higher Learning Commission because board members were going out around the administration, out around my office as the president, because I'm your employee. You're supposed to, communicate through me, but we're going out around to talk to faculty or to talk to staff. Staff were going to board members rather than facilitating that communication through my office. And I know Kansas institutions that have been in a lot of trouble with the Higher Learning Commission because those kinds of things violate proper governance expectations at the Higher Learning Commission level. Now, I'm not necessarily, like when Julie asked, I think at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, if she could go ahead and contact Bill Young, of course. But that gives me the opportunity to say, hey, Bill, Julie's going to get a hold of you. Watch for her call, watch for her email, and it gives that person a heads up. It's difficult when, I think it puts people sometimes on the spot or it makes them uncomfortable if those things happen outside of maybe me giving people a heads up because they aren't prepared and they don't know necessarily what to expect. And so it's really critical that I think you take a chance to look at the code of conduct and responsibilities that you supported. And I mean, there was discussion and there were things that people didn't like, some of the things that they didn't like in here, but as a group, you passed this code of conduct and responsibilities. And so it's important for you to adhere to those.
If I could just ask you to repeat for the audience here, could you tell us the majority that supported that?
I think it was 5-2, but I'd have to go back and look at the vote, but I think it was 5-2.
And the only dissenting board members were Mr. Smith
obviously.
and
Possibly,
myself,
yeah,
correct?
possibly.
Well, here, can I, Dr. Kroll, may I, part of my issue with this, and code of conduct aside, you made a point at the last meeting, Julie, about how you were playing word games with us about how, well, I didn't reach out to the reporter for the Sentinel.
Word games. That's a little bit.
You were trying to focus on the fact that he called. You didn't deny talking to him. You made a point of saying he contacted you.
That's right.
And you both, if his article can be believed, you lied. Never at any point in our meetings have you all been told that you have to request documents through Cora. Okay. I understand your frustration that it has taken longer than you think it should for some requests to be fulfilled.
What do you mean? What do you mean we lied?
His
What is the lie?
You can read it.
Hang on, I'll read it. Both suggested they were being forced to submit formal Kansas Open Records Act requests for information they are entitled to as members of the board. That is absolutely flat out false.
Have you ever?
Wait, specifically last month before the meeting, I think it was maybe Jim and whoever needs it. I want the emails between WSU Tech, BCC, whatever form I have to fill out, I'll fill it out, blah, blah, blah. Jim responded, I don't think trustees are required to do that. 3 weeks go by, I got nothing, zero, until I filled out an official Cora request, sent it to Kim, and then poof, hey Shelby, here's some emails. You can go to our attorney's office and look at it. I received nothing that entire 3 weeks until I went the extra step to formally put Cora/FOIA on a header, and then I got a response. I don't think his reporting of that is false at all. I got zero information until I put that on a form.
And let me respond to that, please. When that request came through from you, whenever I have a concern or a question about whether I can release that information, I send it to Ray. As soon as I got that request from you, I talked to Ray. I spent 3.5 days pulling together all of that information and sending it to Ray for his review first, because I felt like that was the most prudent thing to do and the safest thing to do. And I do know that Ray, I wasn't part of the conversation, but I do know that Ray shared with you in exec session last meeting the information to a certain extent that was contained in those documents that I sent to him. And I think that he told you that there was sensitive information in there. He didn't feel like it should be released. And he gave you an overview, I think, of that information. So I didn't deny your request. I sent it to Ray first and let him convey that information to you.
That was not part of our executive session call.
Well, then you need to talk to Ray, because
Well,
Ray.
I've got that email. I've got to take a day off of work to schedule to go look at that stuff now. And then the taxpayers have to
Ray
pay.
shared some of the overview of that. Did he not with you?
$250 an hour.
Yeah.
And the taxpayers were going to pick up the bill of $150 an hour. For me to go.
250.
Yes.
The taxpayers pay 60% of our budget. The taxpayers are going to have to pay $150 an hour for me to go to our attorney's office and look at email. And I'm going to have to give up $80 an hour in my job to go look at email. But I was not communicated.
Our requirement is to make that information.
Whoa, why don't you guys take one time?
Our requirement is to make that information available to you. And Ray's recommendation is that the best opportunity and the best way to make that available to you is for you to come to the office and look at it there with him.
I got none of that until I filled out an official Cora request last week.
But you had already talked to the reporter and suggested that Cora was required a month earlier. So don't bring up an example of what's happened in the last 3 weeks.
We are not provided information in a timely fashion.
That's not what you all knew what the scope of his article was.
And I had told him I'd requested Mcconnell information in the past, and I wasn't provided in a timely
Shelby,
fashion.
I don't dispute that you were frustrated with the length of time that it took for some of these. Would you be quiet and let me finish? I don't dispute that you had frustrations for how long it took to get some of these questions answered. You've made that very clear over the course of the meetings. I get it. It's a whole step further to perpetuate a statement that you know to be false. And he puts this thing out there that you're being told you have to ask for stuff through Cora, and that is flat out false.
I can look up the email. He may have misunderstood me, but there was one point with Kent last year, may have been August. I said, hey, this is a Cora, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, he eventually I got a little bit of information. He said, oh, by the way, this wasn't an official Cora request. Because
we've never been told, it's never even been suggested in these meetings that if you want information, you have to request it through Cora. Never. And that's exactly what this article is suggesting.
What I just said
and the article
was
is suggesting you guys agreed with it.
I told him I'm not being provided information in a timely fashion. And I mentioned that statement that I just told you when I said to Kent, like, hey, here's my Cora request. And then I can look it up. It's been 6 months. So he's like, oh, by the way, that's not an official Cora request. Okay. That's the only comment I made regarding Cora. So I'm sure the attorney would have it on.
The reporter stands by his article, and he says that he has the conversations recorded.
I'm sure he does, but that's exactly what I said.
Well, what he's saying you said is that you and Julie both agreed that the college was forcing you to request for things through Cora. And that's the part I take issue with. Code of conduct aside, you're perpetuating a lie. And it's definitely.
I understand your statement, but what I'm perpetuating just exactly happened in the last 4 weeks. Precisely.
That doesn't explain what you told somebody 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and look, I don't come here to sit and argue with anybody. I don't see the same things as most of the majority on this board. And that's just the way that's just the way it is. But the fact is, when I request certain information, I want it. And waiting a year or waiting 9 months or 6 months or 6 weeks is a lot to ask a trustee. So if someone called out of the blue, which they did, and said, by the way, I'm doing some kind of a deal. I don't know what kind of other colleges he called, and I don't care. But it is a fact, and I can prove it with emails, that I have had a huge difficulty getting basic information that I think should be at hand. There's a difference between records that have to be prepared and records that really should be available already. What they call them is readily available. And even though maybe Kim doesn't agree that they should be readily available, but
all I've done is spent my lifetime in businesses, and these are readily available because most businesses have this information. Otherwise, they couldn't conduct any business. Just like the cumulative total for enrollment for Mcconnell today is whatever it is. Well, I would have just been interested to know what that is, and I wasn't trying to put anybody on the stand. But the fact is, waiting a year for getting the information on insurances was a lot to wait for. And even though I've been trying to not say this, but I'm going to say it now in this open forum. I am not a rogue trustee because I want information. I understand the rogue trustee book was handed out at the last national conference of the accredited colleges or whatever it is, that KACCT or
Not a KACCT. KACCT's never handed out that.
anyway, I was given a copy of that very same book by another trustee on another board. And this is what someone sent her with a note that said, this is what was handed out at that conference. And it's funny because that rogue trustee describes all of the stuffs on one side. And that is things like withholding information to protect the college and so forth and so on. Now, I'm not maligning anyone intentionally, but I'm telling you, it feels like the getting information is like Julie and Shelby are just out to destroy the college, and we can't give them that information because we don't know what they want to do with it. And asking Shelby, if I understand what he's saying, to come to Ray Connell's office, the board's attorney, when that information is available at this college and paying an attorney, that's kind of like misuse of public funds, in my opinion. Now, maybe only 1%, like Shelby talks about, only 1% of that, but still, really, that's kind of out of the line. So yes, I stand by my comments to them. I have found it very difficult waiting sometimes months and months and months to get information that I felt like should be readily available. So
That's not what you said.
You know
Julie,
what? I understand what you read, but I know what I said. And I have a recording as well, right on my phone, of what I said. And I don't have a problem with what I said. Now, to tell you the truth, I haven't, did you look at that article and read it?
I read it.
I haven't really read it. I do have an email of the quote that I gave him, and it has been like being at the dentist. It is like pulling teeth to get information, and I don't think it's appropriate that it is. Now, I have found personally in the last 60, 90 days that I can get information much more easily, since if I write Cora or FOIA in the
FOIA has
in the
absolutely
subject
nothing to
line.
do with the college.
Just hear me out. That's how I have to write it. That way it automatically, and if I remember right, I try to copy Kent since he is the chief information request officer or whatever, then he logs it because they are required to keep a log of those requests. So it's probably the best way for us to do it is to continue to do that because one, it nets us a very much quicker.
Do you want to be charged like it would a normal Cora request?
You know what? It's whatever you want for us. You seem to get there okay.
No,
I'm hoping with Lance in charge as the board
A lot of Cora
president
requests
that
are
we
like
won't have this
25 cents a page for printed, 12.5 cents.
Yeah, there's a limit to what you can
But
charge.
if I
It's
could
on-
just circle-
Julie, go ahead and finish.
It's
but
just on
we're
it's
not
just on
talking
record
about
what you can charge. And you know, I try really hard when I request something to request something that I know if it isn't readily available, it certainly should be. Now, again, it's my opinion. But like I said, the enrollment at Mcconnell, somebody should have an idea what that is cumulatively right now. And even though the 20th, it may make a big difference, maybe 50%. I would love it if it was be a 50%.
Didn't Heather get you that number tonight before she was off the call?
I'm just
Shelby,
saying.
did you?
I'm just saying.
Did you have another comment?
Yeah, but if I circle back to Mr. Boardkirchen or Birdkirchen, I forget.
Dr. Tom Bordenkircher. Yeah,
Bordenkirchen, sorry. When he came here, I specifically asked him, hey, I asked for McConnell numbers. Dr. Kroll said, I do not want to give you those numbers without the story. I asked him point blank, is that proper? Is that correct? He goes, well, she can give you the story, but she always also has to give you the numbers. I did not get any movement in that. I mean, I haven't seen traction unless there's a Cora in the subject line and then
stuff happens because I think it legally has to happen.
Because of the 3-day rule.
But I'm still learning my role as a trustee. I'm asking for information. I'm trying to run this. I'm trying to save taxpayers money ultimately. I think to come here, if we can run this place a little more efficiently, we can return those savings to the taxpayers. I'm trying to get information to look at it. I've asked for other information from December before I was even elected and never really got specifically what I asked for, but I was just trying to be nice about it, get this information. So now if I'm looking for something specifically, I'll just put Cora in there, and I'm not trying to get at anybody now for typing that, but I don't think his reporting is wrong at this point.
No, what did you not get back in December a year ago?
It was asking for the budgetary issues. I sent it like 4 different times, actual numbers that go into the creation of the annual budget, da 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 da. It was a long list because I talked extensively with Biff Green, ex-president of Rouge University. Like, hey, I'm a new trustee. What's some good advice? What should I ask for? What's this? What's that? I was working on his house. So we sat down every day and talked. He's like, man, here's some good questions to ask. Cool. Boom, boom, boom. Send it off. And I did it several different times.
I think Canton Kim send you didn't they send you 4 years worth of budget documents?
I don't think I was ever provided what I asked for specifically.
Well,
let me speak to that for a moment, because I know on the insurance appeal, which I hope you were able to get answered with Ryan.
Yeah,
but I think that information was provided throughout the course of the year in some form or format, which was everything. You wanted everything. And then when we talked, you gave me those 3 items, I forget what they were now, but you wanted 3 specific items. And to my knowledge, those 3 items had never been specifically requested. You continually said, I want everything from the policy, which was provided on SharePoint, which was provided in the form, let me finish, which was provided in the format that you asked for from the insurance agency, which I confirmed after speaking with Dr. Kroll with Ryan. And then to say that it wasn't provided isn't accurate. It wasn't, it maybe in the format you thought it should be. It wasn't the 3 specific documents maybe that you wanted, but you never asked for those 3 specific documents. So if you want something specific, you need to ask for it that way. So we know it's not 1,000 pages of an insurance policy. It's 10 pages of a whatever they were.
The first email, the first documentation I had of that request was in June, Julie. The first email, and I sent it to you. That was the first time that I had that request from you in writing that you wanted the insurance policies, and you asked for the policies from the prior year, and we got those. And then when we got the new ones for the current year in October, those final ones, we posted those. We made those available as well. But I don't have any documentation prior to that you requested anything related to insurance. I really don't.
I understand that, and that was my mistake.
I think if we double back to where we were a week ago, let's just all communicate a little better. Let's ask some follow-up questions to see what we're digging for. Say, hey, what are you looking for? Okay, here's that over there. What
I'd like to see us discontinue the email to everybody and all the reply alls. That creates a lot of issues. So when anybody has a request, let's send it to Dr. Kroll and to the chair, and then maybe to Kent, if you're actually going to label it Cora, but let's restrict it to the chair, the president, and Kent, rather than all 7 of us. Or that's not a good way to do business, and that gets us into some legal issues.
I just object on the minutes because you're the secretary.
Oh no, you didn't do that to everybody, and I appreciate that.
I emailed you as
Yes,
a copy, as courtesy.
Thank you.
Because I felt like the minutes were incorrect.
I like the way you did it instead of sending it to everyone.
I did that.
And that's what I've been trying
And
to
I did
practice.
this twice yesterday with Mr. Lechtenberg
Yeah.
and Dr. Kroll.
Yeah.
Just
So maybe if
separately.
we can, I will feel a lot better if we get rid of the reply alls and the email to everybody, and because that's marginally illegal. We shouldn't be doing that.
Well, it makes it public information.
Yeah, let's,
Part of this is we may be getting into some conversation we can have later in regards to the board evaluation of some of this. But I think it's important that we know that how we present the board and the college and the public is important to the HLC aspect of it. Kim and I have talked about probably the necessity to do, we talked some last fall, was it, about doing some training and so forth, and probably going to try to do that just as a way to take some steps from that aspect. And then Doug, to your point, the email aspect of it, and again, I think we're all aware of that at this point, and we'll try to do better there. So, Jim, did you have anything to say, or Mary Martha?
My concern, I understand not everyone has information exactly what they want or as fast as they want. My concern is how we portray ourselves to the public, whether it's been in the article that was written, whether it's, this public stream right now where we have Trustee Winslow saying, I never got that and I asked for it. I watched that whole stream and she wanted all the insurance information and she got it. She couldn't access it for problems with computers, whatever. But all the information she requested was there. But then we sit here, or she sits here in public and says, I never got it. Kim never sent it to me. You guys are holding it up. You're trying to keep it from me. That's just not true. And I'm really concerned about presenting that sort of like we're playing some kind of game for the public. I think Julie should have whatever she wants for whatever reason she wants. I should, as should Shelby. But I'm really concerned that we're publicizing everything as if it's not coming out, it's not getting done, and people have an ulterior motive to hold stuff back, which is just not true at all. And that's very concerning.
Well, I just figured, it's easier for me to tell a non-insurance person, because I do have a couple of licenses, although they are minute, to say, I'd like to look at your insurance policy. And what I expected was just to come to the office and thumb through a physical copy. That's really what I expected. But apparently, unlike other people that I called and asked, and I'm not talking colleges necessarily as much as businesses, they don't have a book that they hold it all in, okay? And it's digital, and that's fine too, but it would have been nice if I could have been invited in. You know what, we got all that digital, it's in the right order, just come in, spend a few hours. If you don't see something that you need, then we will get it for you or whatever. But gee, many Christmas, June, maybe that's the first time I sent it in writing, but it certainly isn't the first time I asked. But in the future, I will not ask for anything verbally anymore, ever again. And I haven't in some time, because I think it's better if we have a paper trail, and a paper trail that we could expose to the public if they were to ask. I do not know what the requirements are on public records as far as emails back and forth, but I don't have anything to hide. So if I ask for something, I'll expect it on a better
Why do
better
you use the
timetable.
term expose?
Excuse me. You're an attorney. You're gonna pick.
No, it's
don't nitpick.
No, it means something. The words we choose have meaning.
Okay, well, whatever you want to make it.
You said it, not me.
Okay, but whatever you want to make it.
Mary Martha, go ahead.
We as trustees need to know where these buildings are, what's inside of these buildings.
Yes, that's another reason.
We need to go and see where
Yeah.
these.
I mean, we're
buildings
ultimately
are.
responsible, each one of us.
Right.
And that's
it-
another
and
reason.
It bothers me when people don't even know where the fire science building is.
Right.
We need to know that. We need to know what we do here and how well we do it. And I think we need a little bus tour.
Hey, you know what? That is a good idea. I bet we have a vehicle that's available. And if we don't, we probably can borrow one from the county if we can classify it as a public meeting somehow and go from facility to facility. I'm all for that tour, Mary Martha. I'd really like
Let me
to take
suggest that we wait till it's a little warmer outside.
It is kind of
In the
Thank
interest of time, unless
No,
somebody
it's-
has another comment to make.
My only little 2 cents of the board passing a code of conduct, making addendums and additions to it, you can't mandate my freedom of speech and saying, if you all pass the majority, I have to publicly support something. If I'm representing my constituents, I don't have to I'm bringing their views here. You can't mandate that I have to be a robot and support whatever you tell me to. I don't think that's legally fine. That's just my 2 cents, and that's my only little pushback on that.
It's good boardsmanship. It's
Well,
one of the good boardsmanship and
good practices for ACCT and AACC and KACCT. But I'll tell you, it is something though that when we have our higher learning commission visits, they look at those kinds of things and they look at how cohesive the board works together. And if there are issues, they'll note them and they'll have us do monitoring reports or be able to show that we're making improvements. And I think that that's part of the reason why I think it's really important that we organize some trustee training together, because that's one of the things that I need to show the higher learning commission that we're trying to do, so that we understand the roles and responsibilities and what good boardsmanship is. So I'm working on that. I've had some conversations this week with both the Western Nebraska Community College president and the Southeast Community College president about engaging some of their trustees to come in and help us.
I know we
I have a
did ask
responsibility to the higher learning commission to do
a
that.
couple of times last year for some more training. It has been brought up.
Well,
several
and we looked at, Jim and I talked to the Association of Governing Boards about helping us. The price tag was pretty high. Felt like we didn't feel like we could spend the money that they were putting
Dr.
in front of us.
Bordenkircher said he would come,
Who?
Mr. Bordenkircher.
Yeah, he will.
He said he would come roll on the mat with us.
He
We
will
wanted him
come,
to.
but I don't think we want him to get involved quite yet. When he comes, he's going to come with a little bit heavier hand. And so I'm going to reach out and try and engage a couple of trustees that are experienced. Maybe from Southeast Community College. We're trying to work on some of that. So I'll keep you posted about that.
I won't back down or be kowtowed. He's
We're gonna-
incoming is intimidating.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the board action items. The first one is the board bylaws and policies and some changes there. I think Dr. Elman is going to speak to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me just give you just a little bit of an introduction here. 2 policies in front of you. Again, continuing work that we're doing to update it says board bylaws and policies. We've done the board ones, but these are just the overarching policies for the board. But 2 of in front of you. Jessica's going to speak to the changes for the FERPA policy, and then I'll walk through the conflict of interest policy for you that's for our employees. So Jessica, you want to talk about FERPA?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The changes with FERPA are really to try to distinguish between the policy and the procedures. We've also updated some guidelines for release of information. So if you look at the policy, we've created a policy statement and then moved other information that was under the original policy into procedures, and then made a few edits there. And then if you look under the directory information, we did add some clarifiers for address, added year in school, enrollment status, awards and honors, and then previous educational institutions. Then under the guidelines section, we have added information on if a student requests to have their information be excluded from other publications such as the graduation announcement, things like that. Also, then under that section, we also disclose that we may limit the use of the disclosure of information to specific parties. And then we also are including that we are required to release student information to military recruiters upon request. Many students don't realize that that is something that we are required to do. So those are the changes that we have made. I should have mentioned earlier, the last time this was reviewed and updated was in 2015.
Some of the changes that you've made, Jessica, are based on like questions that have come up over time or additional information that you've gotten based on student requests or requests that have had to have been denied because they don't fit into the FERPA policy, right? So some of it is just kind of process updates and practice updates, correct?
Correct. So just trying to differentiate more on what is directory information. That helps us whenever we go to publish things like such as things for our activities, students, athletics, being able to disclose the information. And then also we have had an increase in requests of student information, and we are required to disclose information. However, we can use discretion on when to release that, because as you can imagine, we don't want to release them from parties unless we absolutely feel like it's necessary to do so.
And the federal law, the FERPA federal law really dictates what can be in this. I mean, there's not a lot of latitude that institutions have to, you know, for what they can put in here, because it's based on federal law and federal guidelines that we have to adhere to. So.
Oh, I would move that we approve the updates to the FERPA policy.
Been moved and seconded to update the FERPA policy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
The conflict of interest policy that starts on page 27, if you look on page 29 towards the end, that was our current policy. A little short, you know, hadn't really had anything done to it for a number of years. And after we updated and really kind of clarified the board's conflict of interest policy, where we had definitions and really kind of defined things, we, you know, knew that it was important to go back and do this for the employees as well. This really kind of covers the board's code of conflict policy covers the senior administrators, but this really covers the other employees as well. And so what we did, you can see with the bold face, that we really went back and pulled information out of the board's conflict of interest policy and put it in here to expand on what needed to be here for employees. So clarification, there's a you know, a section on agreements and contracts and purchases, then a section on gifts. We wanted to make sure that we really clarified that for our employees, so that that was noted, and I guess just expand on the expectations regarding conflict of interest. So questions at all? Pretty straightforward, I think.
I just want to know if this exactly mirrors what was put in the bylaws.
Well, I'd have to pull out the board conflict of interest policy, but I know the definitions where it talks about conflict of interest, family member, it defines, you know, how they gives examples of what conflicts of interest are. It's worded a little bit differently than the board policy. I mean, the format's a little bit different, but it's really similar to the content of the board's policy. I can, you know, if you want to look at a comparison, I can bring it back next month so you can go back and review the board's conflict of interest policy and as it relates to this. I mean, it doesn't make any difference, but.
No, it doesn't make any difference. It's not appropriate or apropos. So I move we adopt the conflict of interest policy as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the conflict of interest policy as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow? Yes. Trustee Howell? Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. For Laura.
I will always give the reason as I did. And I should have mentioned it. I understand that. I understand that, but that's a vote. And that's very.
They can't.
And it was in there that you
You're not
abstained.
speaking in your microphone.
Moving on to
And one thing, Mary Martha just tapped the nose at me. I tapped it at her, but it says family member residing in the same household, which my son did move out and is currently doing butler. So if I'm doing something improper by him getting culinary right now, I need to know. I'm not trying to
You're not
hide
an
anything.
employee. This is only an
Are you
employee.
getting
Right, but
paid
I
and
don't-
the rest
I
of
don't
us
remember-
aren't?
We're not talking, we're
but for the ones we passed for the board members, I don't remember the verbiage. So if somebody
This
wants
is
to look
for
that
their
up.
Children to go to the college free.
Right, right. But
Yeah, I
This,
think we
this
talked
is for
about this
employees,
here.
but she's just simply saying when we did it for us as trustees, I don't know how that applies since he moved out. Mid-year.
Wasn't there a discussion where we
There
talked
was
about
a-
where the comma was? It was
No,
all spouses, all parents, all siblings, all children,
Yeah, there was something like
and
that.
any relative who resides in the same house.
Yeah, I don't recall what we decided. I just don't want to
Okay.
do it
I'm just
improperly.
saying, yeah, okay.
I'm not trying to get
We can.
Moving right
a
along.
couple
Yep.
classes over on my son.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
We're gonna go ahead and
Moving right
move on to the
along.
next.
So no one tells me, I'm
action
assuming
item.
I'm okay.
There
I
you go.
just think that needs to be noted.
My son thinks it's okay, but
Do
Noted.
you understand what I'm saying?
No.
she's saying if my son, since he moved out middle of last year, he's
Well, we just-
currently taking
then
a class.
We just passed an employee policy. It has
Right, but
nothing
we
to
had-
do with show.
No, but previously we raised the question and it has nothing to do with this month. It's just
If it
me
needs to be
particularly.
disclosed, just complete a new conflict of interest form and put it on there, and then it's disclosed. That's what I would. suggest.
That's it. You just have to declare it.
They're still not getting it.
That's all right, Mary.
That's right.
Okay,
I've tried a
I
couple
tried
times. so-
to.
Okay. Here we go. The next topic for action is the retirement of Michaela Ayers. I think Shelley Schultz is going to
Yeah,
speak to that.
Shelley, we typically put the retirements, they would normally go on the consent agenda, but we typically put them on the board action items because it gives you a chance, it gives our folks a chance to just tell a little bit about the employee that's going to retire. So I think Lori's going to speak to Michaela. Michaela's been our director of library services. So Lori, do you want to talk about Michaela for just a second?
Yes, we're going to miss Michaela very much. Michaela has served as the director of libraries since for 18 and a half years. And I don't know if you've been in the library, but we have two libraries right now, one here on the El Dorado campus and one in Andover. And under Michaela's leadership, some of the things that she is very proud of is that she was the one that purchased the first ebook for the Butler Library. She has also helped implement various electronic databases, which really was good to have in place as we've dealt with COVID. We've had those in place for a long time, but she would always update those. And then most recently, she's been involved with helping lay out the library in our 5,000 building. So we will miss her. She is moving to Missouri, and I've hired a new person to replace her, but Michaela did a super job over those 18 and a half years.
Is there a motion to accept her retirement?
I so move we approve her retirement of Michaela Ayers. Second request.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the retirement of Michaela Ayers. Roll call.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Howell, trustee Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. And
I think Jessica's going to talk about June Costin real quick.
Yes. June started with Butler in August of 1997, and she worked as an adjunct instructor and adjunct advisor until 2013, when at that time she took a part-time advisor position with the college. During her tenure, June has advised countless students and was a great colleague in our enrollment management and advising team. Her last day was January 8th, and as you can imagine, we do miss her very much.
thank you. Could I get a motion to accept June's retirement?
Motion.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded to accept the retirement of June Costin. We'll call the roll.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Winslow.
Yes.
Trustee Howell. Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I make that motion with the notation that the minutes presented as amended.
Correct.
Yeah, I would second that.
We'll go ahead and do the roll call vote. There's no discussion on the consent
Trustee
agenda.
Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Howell,
Yes.
Thank you, Laura. And then supplemental information, is there anything there, Dr. Kroll, that we need to?
Nothing specific. I think I noted in the board overview again that the performance measures that are in your board book change on an annual basis, really, because that's how we report them to the Board of Regents, and that's how we report them to iPads and things like that. So you aren't going to see a lot of change in those. We put them in there just as a reminder, you know, and we'll update those as we have to submit those additional reports to the Board of Regents.
And
Yeah,
last month you said ESOM was going to do that next month in March.
I'll go back and double check, not the
Okay.
KBOR ones. We
Well,
don't
just the
submit that.
page 200. Because I had asked in like December, and you said February would be all right. And last month you asked if March would be okay with
I
it.
think what he was going to do was come in and
explain.
explain
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you want?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll have him do that. Sure. I think I maybe misunderstood that, so
Okay.
I'll make sure we get him on the agenda. KPIs for a number of the strategic priorities are there. Your statement of revenues and expenditures, board calendar. You know, not a lot going on except we'll, you know, think about the college auction coming up on the 26th and check out the link. I will check with the foundation and find out the details on how, you know, what you need to do to be able to bid and stuff like that. So there are going to be a couple of things that are auctioned live through live stream and some things on the silent auction, but then also a really tremendous opportunity called pure philanthropy to just donate to student scholarship funds. So lots and lots of athletic events on the calendar.
Mary Martha, do you have a
98
question?
home events.
I do.
I'm opened up.
Do we switch bank accounts every year? Do we go from
No.
commerce to interest to?
No, we have multiple bank accounts. The thing that's the thing that was on the
Mhm.
consent agenda is just because we have new officers.
Right, but I didn't know whether we switched, gave each one business each.
No, we have, because we have them at multiple locations. On an annual basis. They're
Sure.
not all with the same bank every year.
And do we get to go to sporting events now?
Well,
Not yet.
Shelby asked that earlier.
You go and you
Probably
say,
not
I'm
yet.
going in there, take my temperature, I'm wearing a mask, here's my hand scrubbed, and I'm
Not
gonna go sit in
yet.
there and watch and
Not yet.
see if they call the cops.
The
Just do it. They're not gonna turn you away.
President
watch some
voted
sports.
to allow 25%,
Right,
but
I'll be listening.
they're reaching out to the Grizzly backers, the donors and stuff right now to find out how many tickets are sold to them, and then we'll know if there are others that are available. So,
Kim,
yes,
this Kent, could I say something about Mary Martha's question on the bank accounts?
sure.
We do an RFP on those periodically. It's very difficult to change our main bank now because of all the
I bet.
all the banking that's done electronically, all the safeguards that are in place and all of that. So Kim Sherwood's very diligent about that. And there's a regular bidding. Well, it's not a bidding, it's an RFP process for our main bank.
You know, years ago, Kent, when I was on the board clear out in Garden City, we used to do it every year, change every year. And I always thought, what a hassle to do that every year. But
yeah.
back then, interest rate was around 16%, so a little bit different story.
Yeah,
Thank
if you,
Kent.
you're welcome.
So I would entertain a motion to adjourn and move on to the work session.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk,
Discuss.
call the roll.
Discuss
Did you want to
that.
discuss?
Trustee
Okay.
Good? Yes. Trustee
We can't
Moss?
discuss that?
Yes.
Trustee Road?
Yes, sorry.
Trustee Lexenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes, but the camera keeps running, right?
Trustee Howell?
I just got a message for you to talk to your
Trustee Smith?
microphone.
Yes.
from the public.
That's unanimous.
The meeting is adjourned.
But the
think we're good.
recording continues.